A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead. Oh, with the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round 5 of the AMS Oz GT3 Sprint Series for 2020. 2 rounds and 4 races is all that remains in this very short but very unique 6-round series for GT3 machinery. And a bit of a different contrast to some of the other racing that we've had so far in GT3. This one is a night race. Qualifying might be in the dusk and practice might be in the day, but under the floodlights of the Bahrain International Circuit is where it will all go down for tonight's pair of 30-minute sprint races. It's a little bit of an interesting dilemma that a few of the drivers face. It's very fast becoming a race in 2 at the top of the standings, but it took a bit of an abrupt turn last time out. An unfortunate issue for Will Devenish means that he goes from leading the series to trailing by 16 points coming into tonight's 2 events. But the round win and the overall honours are very much far from over. And anything can happen in tonight's duel in the desert. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Steve DeVries. At the moment, I'm joined by Josh Bagsy Bags, but Michael the Floodman Zalavari will be along in a few moments' time. But good evening, Josh.
Evening, Nether. It's good to be here for the, as you said, the Desert Twin Sprint at Bahrain using the Grand Prix layout. It's quite good. We know we'll be seeing this later in the year twice in F1, and I believe both at night as well. So it's going to be good to see these cars under lights. Hopefully no performance issues for anyone, because I know sometimes a Automobilista can struggle a little bit at night for some people's machines. But yeah, hopefully no technical gremlins like Will Devenish unfortunately had last week.
Yeah, hoping not. I know 1 or 2 drivers haven't been able to make it tonight. Have been a couple of issues with the track. But on top of that, there is a slightly less than usual turnout tonight. But nonetheless, it's good to see that we are still getting the regulars turning up and continuing to support the series. And our series is all about making sure that people have the opportunity to come and race, no matter what their skill level is. So good to see that no matter whether you're a front runner, whether you're a mid-pack runner, or whether you're just in it to have a bit of fun and just want to run around at the back, that you turn up and you give it a go, and that's the most important thing. The good thing about tonight is the headlights won't be required. The track is flood-lit enough that cars can very easily be seen at night. So that's one of the issues that we have had in the past with some night races or races that sort of get into the darker hours. The floodlights are not an issue. The headlights is usually what seems to drive some of the performance gremlins that we've had in the past.
Yeah, it does seem to be one of the things that really causes the most issues in AMS. I know when racing with ARW, had issues where when we did 24-hour races over the course of 48 minutes, the night sections sometimes cause people to crash and cause disqualifications, but that's been turned off for this, so people won't have to worry about that. What they will have to worry about is potentially traffic, though, because this is a track where there's lots of spots where it can be very difficult to get around the traffic, and the pace differences are just enough at the moment that we'll probably see some of that coming into play at the end of the race.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And tyres, we're hearing tyres is a big thing right now at the moment. The very, very high ambient track temperatures. We're just still in the practice session at the moment. Still got about 13 minutes to go. You take a look at the track temperature. Air temp is 42 degrees. Track temperature is 49 degrees centigrade. And that's not going to drop by very much come the qualifying session and the race session. So tyre management is going to be very, very critical about how you approach this race. You know, maybe we might see a gamble. We might see some people actually come in and make a tyre stop.
Yeah, it's one of the things where potentially it could happen, but I don't think so. But we have been hearing in practice a lot of drivers complaining about overheating their tyres just almost instantly if you have just a little bit of a slide. So they're going to have to be very careful out there to not overdo it. And as I say that, we're joined by Michael Floodman Zalavari, who has been out there driving around in one of these cars.
Hang on, give me just a second to get properly set up, and then I'll join you properly.
That's all right.
Put him on the spot.
We put him on the spot. He'll be one to comment on some of these tyre wear issues that everyone's experiencing, because he's been out there cutting a few laps and trying to, mimic, I guess, what everybody else has been doing. But Bagsy, what we'll probably do is have a little bit of a look at this track while we wait for Michael Zalavari to get himself together. And well, here it is. First time we've ever been here in Automobilista Australia. So of course there are no track records. We reckon we're going to get somewhere around 23 laps tonight, which is on a little bit on the high side. I think we've probably gone for a little bit of a conservative, almost a conservative, bit more of an aggressive estimate here. We might get a little bit less if the tyre wear issues start to come in. But this circuit, mostly known in Formula One circles for the annual trip here under lights, and usually it's about round 3 or 4 of the Formula One World Championship. This year it's going to be a lot later in the piece. They'll use the extended endurance layout for the second race of things. But there are some really unique characteristics about this track. There's some nice, really flowing sections up through the back half of Sector 2. There's a few hard stops, a few tricky corners. The 2 infield hairpins in the very, very first corner are very heavy pinch points, we like to call them, where the track can narrow up. And if you're not careful, you could lose a front nose or have a bit of contact with somebody and could end up off the road. The most real difficult spot of those is the 3rd hairpin at turn 9.
Yeah, and it's going to be an issue in terms of picking past people, but not so much in terms of going off the track, because there are many, many acres of runoff here. Not much of a penalty for going wide. No gravel traps for the most part. Arguably, the whole area is a gravel trap, but just they put a bit of track and some concrete through. But it's going to be, running wide is probably not going to cost you as much time as you think. I haven't seen what the track limits are like here, but sometimes running wide can be a bit of an advantage. I'm not sure what the rulings will be tonight, but if people are very obviously going off the track to gain an advantage, then they'll be forced to give places back.
Yeah, there's only a couple of spots where you can sort of cut the track and get away with it if you were to keep your foot in it. But most of the time it's going to be you roll out of the throttle. If you're in the middle of a battle, you'll have to give that place back. The biggest spot for that is down at turn 1, where if you go a little bit deep or you get forced off the track, you can sort of skip turn 2 and rejoin at turn 3. But most of the drivers know how to behave and what to do in that situation, so it's not too much of a problem. But it is a 15-turn circuit, just short of 5.5 k's in length, and we are very much looking forward to what this is going to throw up tonight. The first ever duel in the desert, we're calling it. First ever trip to the Bahrain International Circuit in Automobilista Australia. So we always like to see what little slices of history are going to come up in terms of the qualifying lap record and the race lap record throughout the night.
Yeah, and at the moment, looking at the practice times, Bolger is currently heading them with a 156.2, and Lime Mitch about 0.3 back with 156.5, and there's really 4 of them. We've got Ross, Devenish, Mitch, and Bolger all in the 156s. But I think it wouldn't be surprising if we got into the 155s when we get to qualifying, if someone can put it together. Remember, it is one-shot qualifying that we have here, so it does make it hard for those ultimate lap records to be set compared to the previous GT3 World Challenge, where you had at least 10 minutes, you could bump a couple of laps in and make that work for you. As we see, Peter Savage and Steve Burko put themselves up a bit higher in the practice standings as well. So we've got 6 drivers all in the 156s, so it should be on for a bumper qualifying soon. Yeah,
we're starting to see the qualifying runs just start to emerge in the last 10 minutes or so of this practice session. Michael, that is back in the box, so what we'll do now is have a quick look at the point standings coming into tonight, Michael. And when we alluded to this just before you got here, this is very much now a 2-horse race with 2 rounds and 4 races to go between Pete Savage and Will Devenish for line honours come 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, both of them have been the class of the Sprint Series so far. But with Will's unfortunate DNF last week, it has given Savage a bit of a buffer in the points now. That's not to say it's all quite finished just yet. There is still 4 races left to go. But that 26-point margin at the top of the field is it 26 or 16?
16.
16-point margin at the top of the field is going to be something that Will's going to have to overcome. And the only way he's going to be able to do that is to take race wins. But there's also quite a compelling battle for third place as well. Steve Bolger, Brendan Ross, Lime Mitch, and Greg Turra. And you can even throw Burko into that. All consistent performance, only separated by 14 points over those 6 or 7 cars. So it's a really close run thing for third, but really it is a 2-horse race with only 100 points left on the table.
And I'd throw Lewis Wedding into that banner as well, and maybe even Noah Turra to sneak a couple of spots up the order as well. Noah here tonight, having missed the last round. His father, Greg Turra, up there in 6th place, an unfortunate absentee tonight, but is watching along in the live stream. So, hello, Greg. Hope you're doing well. Sorry to see you can't make it. And I'm just noticed Lewis Wedding has popped up in the chat saying, go Hans. Well, Hans isn't here tonight either, but he is there on the standings in 11th place. He's doing a little bit of driving in another series tonight, so we wish him the very, very best of luck, along with Rhodey, who's not here tonight as well. We'll take a look at the team's points. With the team's points is pretty much, again, a race in 2. The Wedding Crashers Motorsport Lamborghinis are going to really have to start to come to the fore to curtail the loose SimSport Bentleys. Team's championship could virtually be done and dusted by the end of tonight.
Yeah, and it looks like at the moment there's, with Hans missing out tonight as well, that's another bit of a moment for the Wedding Crashers Racing that they're not really going to be able to overcome with, of course, Peter Savage and Steve Burko, both in the service tonight in the Bentleys. Loose SimSport are looking like they might have that one tied up if they both manage to get the 2 cars to the finish tonight.
Well, there you go. That's your standings as they sit for the opening 4 rounds of this championship. 2 more rounds to go, and we might actually just join the practice server for the last 5 or so minutes of this session just to see how things are going. Let's see who the man is at the top of the standings. The man at the top of the standings at the moment is this man, Steve Bolger, and his Jaguar. 156.1 he has found his way into now. Have a look who's sitting in 2nd spot here, guys. That is a stellar lap from Termo in the Viper. What on? That's not something we see all that often, and he's pulled a lap out of a hat here.
Yeah, I was on board with Termo as he's saying this lap, and it just worked really nicely.
What a fantastic lap.
It's a very good lap. It's a lot higher than what we would normally expect from Termo, but yeah, that is right up there. And if he's able to replicate that in qualifying in just over 5 minutes' time, he will be very happy.
Have a look at this, though. We just watched him go through the Sector 1 split, and fractionally up on his time. Actually, is it Sector 1 split or is it Sector 2 now? No, he's coming down through Sector...
He's coming down the hill, yeah, in Sector 2 now.
Yeah, into this tricky hairpin that we were talking about. So you go through Turn 8, and this is when here, Turn 9, big drift. Caught it. Lost a lot of time, though.
Not the fastest way through the corner, but definitely the most stylish.
Yes, very, very stylish. This is like, not Tokyo D1. He's given that,
beautiful.
He's given that up. We'll have a look at that on the replay. That's definitely worthwhile of a replay. So here we go. He was actually a little bit sideways coming out of Turn 7 as he went over the hump down the hill here into Turn 8, and then the back just gets away, and very, very graceful slide. Have a look at that. Full
Almost
opposite
as
lock
if you
on.
planned it.
Yeah, full opposite lock on. And if there was a cone there and this was Tokyo D1 drift, he would have wiped the cone out completely and just got going and gave away the lap at the end of it all. But very, very nicely done. And this is what we were on about before. The series for AMSLs over the course of the 2 3/4 years that it's been running has been all about people coming to compete regardless of your skill set. And every now and again you get a little moment like this that comes up where you see someone vaulted up the order that you're not expected to be there, and it's a moment that just makes you smile. I mean, there was even one, I think, recently in the TCAC all-wheel drive series where someone that usually is a bit further down the order ended up with a pole position, and the whole group was absolutely ecstatic.
Yeah, the one that I remember from TCAC was the penultimate round of the four-wheel drive season, the front-wheel drive season, where Brian Walsh actually grabbed a pole position. Yeah. So it can happen, and when it does, the best part about this community is that everyone's there to boost them up and to celebrate it as well. There's no one really who gets too annoyed about missing out quite at the end.
No, you're not wrong there. So let's have a look at these times. So again, Bolger's gone back to the garage, so I think he's probably done for the time being. A 56.1 and a very, very close logjam of cars behind. So Termo's on a 56.214, Peter Savage a 2.21, Lime Mitch a 2.40. So that's your top four. Then back to the Lou Simsport Bentley of Burko, who's also in the garage. Our resident Kiwi, Tim Redmond, in the service tonight, 56.4. He's pretty handy in the McLaren. And then Will Devenish, 56.6. And then he's only just fractionally ahead of Brendan Ross on a 56.722. So all the top 8 guys are under a minute 57. They are spread out by 0.6 of a second, but they're under the 1 minute 57 barrier. And in the next two, Ujit Mishra in the Porsche, who's actually had a pretty decent turn of form in the Porsche Cup Series, Floodman.
Yeah, very nice run race last time out at Automobilista, the short circuit we ran for the Porsches. I think we're actually going there in these cars as well. No,
that was Road Atlanta you're thinking about. We're going there in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I knew there was one crossover around, but yeah, not necessarily a quiet evening, but he managed to make gains where others lost out. I was unfortunate not to get the lucky dog to get the run onto the reverse grid in the first race, but he came through the field in the second race in the Porsche Cup, and yeah, I think it was his best AMS Oz performance last week out, so he's looking to carry on some of that form tonight. And yeah, 57.4, not a time to really stick your nose up out as he gets a bit wide through turn 14, but yeah, quite well done.
Absolutely, and carrying that form over from the last round of the Super 2 series at Circuit Chris Amon at Manfield, where he was getting better and better and better for each of the 3 races. So on a little bit of a run of form, a bit uptick in form. It's good coming into some of the back-end races of the season, namely the AMS Oz Bathurst 500, which he's looking for a partner for as well. And then the man in 10th place is, you can see he was in the garage there, we just can't see him, was Lewis Sweating in the Team Antara Resort Style Living Acura NSX as the last man inside the 10. And rounding out the rest, here we go, Michael.
I'm just going to grab everyone's attention, draw it to Liam Mitch, who's on a qualifying sim. It looks like he had the purple first sector, a 36.3, and he's just about to hit the second sector mark, and he's up on the pole time, or the best time, by half a second, with only the back stretch and the final corner to go. So this could be a first firing into the 55s in this in the late stages of practice here.
Yes, it's purple for Sector 1 by some margin, and wasn't purple in Sector 2. He was about a couple of tenths away from the best time, but he's still up overall. And wow, 55.4.
There it is.
So that's a signal. That's a big statement coming into qualifying in the next 30 seconds or so. Catch me if you can.
Can he replicate it again in one lap? Because a lot of these laps have been set when people have been doing 2 or 3 lap stints in a row. So are they going to be able to replicate it in one go? We've seen those top 8 are all very close to each other. So is that order going to stay the same or not after our qualifying here in the dusk?
Well, you can see the time has changed on the clock there to 10 minutes for qualifying, but also the overall picture has changed to a bit more of a nighttime setting. There it is, in the dusk as the sun goes down.
Interestingly, the track temperature is absolutely plummeted for this session. It's now air 40, track 32.
Yeah, so we've
plummeted.
We've plummeted. So we were 40, I think it was 42 and 49 were the air and track temperatures when we were on practice. So that has dropped like a stone. So tune of, if we just do the math, looking at it here, so when air was
16.
Yeah, air was 42, so it's only gone down 2, but the track temperature, right, has plummeted 16 degrees. So let's get going for qualifying as Brendan Ross heads out Termo, Ujit Mishra, and that is Steve Burko back there. So they are the 4 men to come out on circuit out of the 15 cars that are here tonight for their solo and one-shot flying lap.
So of these group, I think it will be Rossi, and we saw Turmo have a really good run in practice, but I think Brendan Ross, I was doing practice with him earlier tonight in the permanent server before the official server went up, and he seemed to very easily wind into his pace and ended that little battle that we were having in that practice server with quite a compelling lap time. So I'll keep my eyes on him. He'll be the first one to set a lap as they're just coming through towards turns 9 and 10. We'll talk about the sector markers very quickly. Sector 1 ends just on the exit of turn 4 at the, I guess you call it the top of the hill. And then sector 2 is the complicated part with all the fast corners and the hairpins. That ends just before the turn 13 right-hander that takes you onto the back straight. And then the last sector is just the 2 right-handers that bring you back to the line. And actually, Turmo has taken the lead position in the line.
And what if Brendan Ross wants someone in front of him to sort of just provide that a bit of a visual reference for him going into the corners? You know, have a look at, oh, that's where he's braking, so I'll brake another meter later and just gain bits of time here and there.
Yeah, possibly the dangling of the carrot effect, I think maybe is what he's going for. Just coming back to the air and track temperature, Mike Coulston, who's actually flown back into the Middle East recently, having been in the UK for the last little bit, has said it's 42 in Riyadh today. So he said the track is and conditions and the temperature conditions are pretty much accurate. So good job by Lewis Wedding to get all that going. So Turmo, now the pioneer. Still a lap in the practice session, late, was inside the top 10. So it's going to be himself from Rossi, Ujit Mishra, and then Steve Burko. Through turn 1, you can cut that turn 2 a little bit. Turmo gives it a bit of a wide berth, giving some of these curves a little bit of a wide berth. There are a couple of aggressive curves that you do want to avoid. He goes around turn 4. We'll get a sector marker for sector 1. A little bit of oversteer and a little bit of lock brake going through turn 4. Comes down the hill.
And it's a 37.3. Didn't quite hit the apex of turn 4 as he flows the car down the hill and then just pinches the inside brake for the first of the 2 hairpins. At the moment, it seemed to have lost live timing, unfortunately, so I can't give you an update.
Brendan Ross was 0.6 faster through the first sector.
Yes, Ross.
Yeah, there we go. And Turmo, again, just a bit of oversteer on the exit of turn 8, whereas in the background you can see Brendan Ross a very smooth exit and Ujit Mishra just a little wide. So they're coming back up the hill. This left-hander will get our second sector mark not too far away.
There's only 4 cars that haven't made it out onto track in some form or another at the minute. So that's Lime Mitch, Pete Savage, Will Devenish and Manuel Centino. So out of the 15 cars, only those 4 are yet to actually jump onto the circuit. We have just very temporarily lost Brian Walsh, so I believe he'll be back in very shortly. So Brendan Ross again, purple to in the middle sector, is behind them though. Lewis Wedding has snatched away the best first, his second quickest in the first sector. First quickest in the first sector. So he's behind this group. So 57.4 for Turmo. Rossi will beat that to the line. There he goes, 56.9, so that's comfortable. Ooh, a bit of smoke trailing back there from Ujit Mishra, and there goes Steve Burko to P number 2.
Only 1/100th of a second. Well, sorry, 1/10th of a second between Ross and Burko.
Yeah, very, very close there. This is the man we were interested in, though. Lewis Wedding was purple through the first 2 sectors. Although Steve Burko has managed to take Sector 2 away from him. But this is still looking pretty handy for Lewis Wedding to vault his way up the order. It'll be into the 56s. And it's a 56 flat.
That is quite the benchmark. Yeah, would have been the second fastest lap in practice, discounting Lime Mitch's incredible 55.6. So that's the benchmark now that everyone has to meet. And Tim Redmond's just come across the line to start his flying lap. The proponent of the narrow exit of turn 1, I can see with Tim there, you can kind of have 2 lines. You can either go very wide and swoop back in, or the narrow line to get the run up to turn 4. And Tim's gone the narrow line. And let's see if that yields a result at the exit of turn 4. Very nice on the apex there in that McLaren. Comes the first sector mark, and it's a 36 27.1. So about half a second away from the peak pace of Lewis Wedding, but still a good sector so far.
That's the thing, that half a second off the pace of Lewis Wedding at the moment is still good enough for second, because there is 8.5 tenths between him and Brendan Ross.
Just keeping an
Quite
eye
a golf.
on the next men who are going to cross the line. Ahead of Tim Redmond, it's Noah Tara, who's about a full sector ahead. And Steve Bolger behind Tim Redmond on the road will be the next man to set a lap after Redmond.
Bolger also only a tenth down and waiting through the first sector.
So maybe we need to be have our eyes on Bolger instead as Redmond comes through the top of turn 12 to hit that second timing marker. Let's see where he sits. Half a second, so actually gained on Lewis Wedding in that middle sector. So very impressive in the McLaren there for Tim Redmond. He's just got the straight sections to go now. And we'll see Bolger's lap time just in a moment.
He's
He
about,
comes
20,
off the
he's
second
about 20 seconds behind Tim Redmond, so he'll be sort of just coming around the
now,
couple
and he's
corners behind
3
him.
tenths up.
and he's looking really good, Steve Bolger. So we'll stay with Redmond to get his time, and then we'll flick across to Steve Bolger, who's tracking like he's going to go in the 55. 56.7 for Redmond. That's
An
Centino.
impressive lap.
And the heavy hitters are starting to come out now. Pete Savage and Will Devenish are both out. And Lime Mitch has now come out as well. So he will be the last man to set a lap, barring Brian Walsh, who is still trying to get back in the server. Bolger with a mid-55.
Wow.
So that's answering the challenge of Lime Mitch from the back end of practice. Provisional pole for the Jaguar. Manuel Centeno will be the next man to complete a lap, as Pete Savage is about 20 odd seconds behind this Jaguar, and Lime Mitch and Will Devenish are yet to start laps. Devenish about 20 seconds or so away from starting the lap, and Lime Mitch is sort of is actually behind Manuel Centeno here on track by about 15 seconds, but he is ahead on track of Pete Savage, so he'll have a face full of Bentley coming up very, very shortly, Lime Mitch, if he doesn't get a wriggle on. But this is the hard thing, guys. These guys do not want to... Oh, Manuel Centeno's had a bit of a moment coming through I think that's turn 11 there, and he'll drop a little bit of time. Let's go back and pick up Pete Savage. Here he is. I was just going to say, guys, on the outlaps, these guys don't really want to be cooking their tyres too much, because the tyre deg is very, very high here if your tyres are not up to correct temp and pressure, with the track surface temperature being what it is.
Yeah, and I noticed that in practice as Peter Savage hits the second sector mark, 2 tenths down on the current top time. All it takes is one moment of wheel spin to really overheat the tyres. It's incredibly difficult to get them back down again. So you almost want to coast that outlap and just get your mind in the right zone, because the tyres will be up to temperature by the time you hit turn 1 almost anyway. Oh, just a little wiggle on exit for Peter Savage. He comes onto the main straight. Let's see where this time slots him. And it's a
front row, provisional front row, 55.8 for Pete Savage. So just 2 runners left. This is the next one to set a time.
He's currently the fastest man through the first sector.
Now check out the smoke behind the car here, guys. That'll be symptoms of running the radiators at a very, very closed position.
I've noticed it for 4 or 5 cars at the moment. I'm wondering if some of these guys might struggle through the whole race.
Yeah,
I think in the practice session earlier, the race, or in the darkness, it seems to cool off quite a bit more. But people were definitely struggling in practice. As Will Devenish, she's had a shocking middle sector, 8 tenths off.
Jeez.
Yeah, and
whereas Lime Mitch, Lime Mitch is a purple first sector.
Yeah, so Will Devenish's first sector was a 36.5, which was very competitive compared to the top time of a 36.6, which has now been beaten by Lime Mitch. But Devenish has struggled through that middle sector and ends up with a 56.2. So he wrestled back a little bit of that time in the final sector, but that right in the close position, I think, has probably hampered the performance of that Lamborghini. But the last man on track, going out dead last, could it be a maiden GT3 pole position for Lime Mitch? What does the second sector marker say? And it doesn't agree.
3 tenths to make up.
So he's gone from being a 10th up at Sector 1 to being 3 tenths down at Sector 2. This is going to put him provisionally on the second row. depending on what he can do here in the last.
Bolger had a
corner.
mighty middle sector. I think that's because he set his car up with a bit more downforce than everyone else.
Great run through the final corner for Lion Mitch. Here's the BMW coming across the line. Let's see if Mitch can set a competitive time. It's third, a 56 flat for Lion Mitch. That puts him just ahead of Lewis Wedding by 7,000ths of a second. But it will be Steve Bolger who leads us off tonight in the first race this evening with a pole time of 1:55.681 to take pole position. Congratulations.
That was very nice lap, wasn't it? It got set very early in the session and it held up.
Well, I think if you put down a that sort of marker that early in the session, it's going to be something very difficult for anyone to chase. And everyone didn't quite get there. It was an incredible lap, and I think Steve and that Jaguar must feel pretty happy with that one, especially considering the Sprint Series hasn't quite gone the way that the World Challenge did for him. So yeah, it's great to see him back on the top step, at least for now.
And it wasn't a good qualifying session for Will Devenish in his quest to be able to hold on or to try and claw back where he is in the championship, because only a 5th place for him.
And that result actually for Lion Mitch has moved Will Devenish down to the 3rd row of the grid in all of that as well. So just to recap where everybody ended up after the qualifying session was over. So your front row is going to be Steve Bolger. On the, I believe it's the inside here is where pole position is, followed by, what we got here, I'm just waiting for the results to get themselves in order, followed by Peter Savage on the outside, and then Lion Mitch and Lewis Wedding are going to share row 2. Devenish is going to be on row 3, and I believe he's going to share that position on row 3. I'm just trying to work out who
Tim
it's
Redmond.
with Tim Redmond in the McLaren, correct. Couple of other notable performances as well. Brock Harvey's managed to get the Camaro into 10th place, so good result to get the MHRT Camaro into the top 10. And the qualifying results from live races is just not sort of cooperating with us at the minute. We're just waiting to see if it'll actually sort itself out. Now we've got it in order. So the balance of the top 10 after Tim Redmond in P6, so Brennan Ross and Steve Burko, and then Turmo and Brock Harvey. So Turmo doing a pretty good job to get inside the 10 as well. And then no times set for Brian Walsh, and in actual fact Manuel Centino. While he did complete a lap on track, it didn't register. That would have been that off that we saw him have, where he's probably picked up a track cut. So Walshy and Manuel will start 14th and 15th respectively. But let's not kid ourselves here, guys. This is going to be a bit of a different challenge to what we're used to. If the practice sessions and what we've been hearing during the week are anything to go by, this could very well become a tyre strategy-driven pair of races. I've been hearing on the ground that some of the guys that are a bit further down the championship order that have really got nothing to play for might roll the dice in this first race, go out a bit harder, try and get a pit stop in, and then come out on some fresh rubber and see how they perform relative to everybody else. And then, depending on what the strategy is, that'll dictate what they do for race 2. So maybe we might see one or two just take the bait and just see what happens.
Yeah, I heard rumblings of that too. I'm not going to tell the fans who's been thinking about that, but it doesn't. To me, it doesn't seem quite like it's worth it. Even with the high level of degradation here, you can, if you're kind to the tires, keep them around for quite a significant amount of time. And consider as well, the transit time here at Bahrain is quite aggressive, because you've got the cars blowing past top of 6th gear while you're sitting stationary in the pits. To me, the payoff might not be there. I certainly don't think you're going to gain back 35 seconds over the course of a 30-minute race, unfortunately.
Realistically, you're going to be needing to be 2 seconds lap faster than people who are looking after their tyres, and I think that is probably a bridge too far.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, though, for those people who do try and do the without stopping is just make sure that you minimize the wheel spin. I made mention in qualifying that if there's any sort of lighting up of the tires, it takes a long time for them to cool down again. And there's a lot of spots on this track where you can light up the tires. I'm thinking at the exit of turn 10 and 8 and 10, the two hairpins, and even the exit of turn 1 to go back up the hill through 2 and 3. The last thing you want to do is be lighting up the tires like we saw Turmo do just before his drift style in practice, because you just won't get them stable again. The car gets extremely nervous.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that the calculations to do a pit stop, the transit time, you hit it pretty much spot on the head, Michael. It's about 34, 35 seconds to get in, get tyres on the car and get going again, but that doesn't factor in the time slowing down to get into pit lane. It also doesn't factor in the accelerating up to make it to turn 1 again, which is not too bad here. Like, it's not like Monza where you have to get up to a lot of speed and then scrub it all off again. The run out of pit lane is fairly short to the first corner, so as much as you're going to be accelerating toward that corner, you're not going to have to worry about a lot of it, because drivers on the track will be slowing down in the same location to brake and get into turn 1, but it's the time that you lose coming off of the final corner getting into the lane is where the killer is. You've got to probably add at least another 6 or 7 seconds to that. But I'm up in the air. If I see somebody try it, good on them for doing something different. And, you know, we've mentioned this, I think, a few times, especially in the World Series. Somebody needed to do something different just to get everybody else in the field thinking. You know, and it almost serves like a distraction in a way when you think about it. You know, someone sees somebody go in and then they start thinking about, oh, what strategy are they going on to? What are they getting at here? And, you know, if it costs them, those people, you know, a second or two from having to think about it, then they've done something right. They've got them thinking, and, you know, it's almost like getting a sign of weakness in your enemy type thing.
It's like when you, in a wet race or a race with variable conditions, when the track's drying or getting wet, it's all about where that crossover point is, and you don't want to be the person to go first, especially if you're near the front, because it could be a bad decision. But sometimes being that person who goes first makes it so you do get to the front. I think the biggest version of that was the Spiker in the Nürburgring in the 2000s, when Winkelhock ended up in the lead by almost a lap over everyone else because he pitted for the right tyres.
Yes, the only F1 driver to have led every single race that he has entered. Unfortunately, it was just that individual race there for Markus Winkelhock, who, by the way, is a quite successful Audi factory driver for the GT3 program after his Formula One outing. So, yeah, nice little bit of trivia.
Absolutely. I'm just getting a reset on the warm-up session here as well, guys. I think there's just maybe 1 or 2 little dramas that they're just trying to solve, which will be good. What we will do in the short term, though, while we're waiting for the warm-up session to tick over, we'll have a quick look at the upcoming events for Automobilista Australia in the next couple of weeks. So the next round for ATCC is tomorrow night. Hidden Valley Raceway is the venue. Slightly different track for Hidden Valley compared to what we've run over the course of the last 2 3/4 years. So for those guys that have not downloaded the update, please make sure you get on and grab that update. The track, it's the same layout and everything, but it just looks a little bit different to what you're used to. So get on that tomorrow night, the Endurance Chat Media channel. Next week, Porsche Cup action from Queensland Raceway, which, if memory serves me correctly, it's the first time, I think, that we've actually been to Queensland Raceway this year. We've done it in Supercars last year, and we had it in TCR as well last year. I'm pretty sure we haven't done it this year, so good to see the paperclip getting a run. So that'll be over on the Loose 89 channel. Now, big important information for the Supercars field. Your next round is next week, but it is a split round, remember, guys. So being the 250 kilometre event for the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, qualifying and the top 10 shootout will be next week on September 17th, to be followed by the race session the following week on the 24th of September. So guys, just remember that it's qualifying and top 10 shootout next week, and then the race a week later. And that's the last Supercars event before we get to the Bathurst 500, and then we'll pick up the Supercars season again afterwards. And then the final round, which could very well end up being a showdown, I guess we call it, guys, which we were starved of in the World Series. We had the distinction of the GT3 Series going down to the last race of every season up until the World Series came along this year, where it was all decided a round early. But the way it's shaping up, Road Atlanta could very much serve as a two-man showdown for the title.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. It will be based on what happens in these next two races coming up, because Will Devenish does not want that lead to get out by too much. 100 points left on the table, so it'll be very difficult for Savage to get a championship victory here without some extreme bad luck for Will Devenish. But we have already seen him have bad luck. But then again, you never know. Bad luck could go the other way, and Savage could be the one to have an issue this round. So who knows what's going to happen.
And on just quickly on the potential of Savage having an issue, I did see earlier tonight that he's actually running on his phone's hotspot internet as opposed to his normal like internet provider. Apparently, he's been having intermittent internet outages, so he's jumped onto his phone. So that could cause a point of problem throughout the race potentially. So anything could still happen with the 4 races left to go.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's something that he's been trying to solve, I think, for the last 2 or 3 days and hasn't had much success. Very, very similar issue, he was saying, to things that have happened to Steve Burko, but notably to Luke Rosella in supercars over the last couple of rounds as well, where all of a sudden you'll be driving along, everything will be perfectly fine. You'll get an intermittent drop, and it will then set you back maybe 200 meters on track compared to where you just were. So that is something that you don't want to be happening. So made the right decision to get on the Wi-Fi hotspot with the phone and get going. I mean, I've had to do that once or twice as well. I think it holds up pretty well. And looking at his ping in the server at the moment, it's not too dissimilar to everybody else, maybe about 30 higher than his teammate Steve Burko, for example. So still pretty respectable. I think he should be all right. One thing that we probably need to cover, I guess, guys, as well, is with everybody finishing where they are, the points gaps between, getting a race win and finishing second and all of that will be a key factor tonight. So if things play out the way that they have been over the last couple of rounds with, Will Devenish and Pete Savage going toe-to-toe, finishing first and second, the gap between a first and second place is 5 points, and then between second and third is only 4 points. So in theory, if Will wins a pair of races tonight and then Pete Savage finishes second in the pair of races, it takes 10 points off the 16-point deficit. So definitely well within striking distance.
Realistically, Will just needs to win every single one of the rest of the races and he'll win the championship.
Yeah,
Pretty
it
much.
is still entirely in Will's hands, but winning 4 races in a row is quite a mighty prospect, and I don't think has anyone achieved that yet in AMS Oz. Has someone won 4 races in a row?
Well, in supercars we've had Kurt Stenberg win I think we've won the opening 6 or 7 races this year, and last year there were a couple of guys that went on a few race-winning streaks as well. In GT3, I can't recall if we've got a record down. The maximum we've had in terms of wins this year, this season consecutively, is 2. Will Devenish did it back-to-back at the Bend, and Pete Savage did it back-to-back at Suzuka. But they've had interrupted things there as well. I think Lewis Wedding may have strung, 2 or 3 race wins together over the course of 1 or 2 GT3 seasons in 2018 or 2019.
Yeah. So it's not quite unheard of, but it's certainly not
a rarity.
Really. Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult. He'll be hoping that Savage has some worse results to take a bit of pressure off him, so he only needs maybe a second.
One thing to think about tonight, though, too, is that Will's 2 rows back of where he would ideally like to be starting. He would be loving to start off the front row and run with Pete Savage for the opening part, but I'm wondering whether... Let's cast our minds back to Monza here, guys. And I know that this is a bit of an unusual thing to say, given that it was a 90-minute race at Monza versus the pair of 30-minute sprint races tonight. But I think the concept is pretty similar. Remember at Monza, we saw a number of drivers that didn't want to lead out and didn't want to, I guess, be the pioneer and tow everybody else around. There was a lot of swapping going on very early. Nobody really was pushing really hard at the beginning of that race to try and establish a gap. I get the impression that's what we're going to see tonight. We're going to see some guys that probably don't want to go out too hard, but for different reasons. At Monza, it was all about fuel. Tonight, it's all about tyres, and I don't think anybody wants to take the jugular and really push hard because they're going to ruin their tyres.
It's going to be one of those things where their setups are going to be one of the things that really affects it as well, because some of these guys, they like a setup with a bit more downforce. Maybe they've got more downforce at the rear, so those tyres are gripping a little bit more. And yeah, it's going to be very, I think, setup based more than anything. It's going to less like driving styles are going to play into it, but some of these setups are really fine-tuned in a way that just it shreds the tires, but they get speed from it.
I of all the people who do that in AMS Oz, Brendan Foley's the first one that springs to mind, but he's not here tonight. So I think if Foley was racing, he'd almost be 100% committed to a stopping strategy, because I don't think he could make those tires last. But of the group we've got here tonight, I'm not sure if anyone has that sort of oversteery setup. It could be a bit of shadow boxing throughout the first little part of the race.
Well, let's have a look at this grid. 15 cars have made it tonight. Good to see everybody here. Bagsy, let's count them off.
Yeah, in pole position, his first pole of the GT3 Sprint Series is Steve Bolger. So he'll be very happy to finally have broken that duck for this season. Alongside him, Peter Savage, who has been the most common man on pole this season, starting from second, looking to extend his championship lead. Liam Mitch with a very good showing in third. Alongside him is Lewis Wedding. Will Devenish, number 2 in the championship, number 5 on the grid. He has a lot of work to do today. Alongside him is the Kiwi Tim Redmond in the McLaren. Brendan Ross is in 7th. Alongside him is Steve Burko. Jomo didn't end up getting the best one-shot lap. He was right up there in practice, but wasn't able to replicate it in qualifying, unfortunately. He'll start in 9th. Brock Harvey will be alongside him in 10th. Noah Tara, back after his missing of the last round, is in 11th. His father missed last round, his father missed this round, so hopefully next round they'll both be here again. Luke Joyner in 12th place. Rujit Mishra in the Porsche in 13th. Brian Walsh in 14th, and Manuel Santino is going to round out the field in 15th place.
All right, Floody, keys to the race. What is this all going to be about? We know tyres are a big issue. Pace management, do you think that's probably the next thing to tick off on the list of items tonight?
Yeah, pace management, keeping track position as well, and racecraft. There's a lot of really interesting sections here where you can run side by side. So managing the tyres and managing the track position in relation to racing the people around you is really what's going to win this race for Peter Savage or Steve Bolger or someone else throughout the field.
Getting some cheering along in the live chat from Rody for Termo. He's saying go Hans. Hans is not here tonight in this stream, guys. You've got to go and cheer him on in the other racing that he's undertaking tonight. But we do wish he was here. He'd certainly be giving some of these guys a run for their money up front as they round the final corner. Lights out on the safety car. Into pit lane it disappears. Now the start-finish line comes up very, very quickly for the race finishing, but I'm just waiting to see where they're going to get going for race start. I believe they're going to get to the head of the grid, which they are, for this to take place. Already a little bit of standing out going on, a few drivers looking to make a few gaps. So for Antara Resort Style Living, we are underway for the first of 2 30-minute races here tonight at the Bahrain International Circuit. And it looks pretty even on the run to the line.
Bolger's got the whole shot.
Bolger's got a little bit more of a whole shot. Savage is a little bit timid. He's going to get rounded up by Lime Mitch here on the run out of turn 1. And great move already by the BMW driver. Will Devenish has made a position on Lewis Wedding already, but Wedding's not having any of it. Grabs that position straight back. The only real positional change we're seeing so far here is Lime Mitch ahead of Pete Savage, and Tim Redmond looks like he's under siege from not only Steve Burko, but here's Brendan Ross trying to go around the outside, and he's made it stick at turn 4.
Yeah, well done there from Brendan Ross. He's wrapped around the outside that he can do really nicely at turn 4 and held it through the fast section down the hill. But at the moment, at the front, Steve Bolger already with a second ahead of Lime Mitch, who jumps Peter Savage at the start, and Lewis Wedding in 4th.
Big dive from Tim Redmond at turn 7 there as well, guys. So he takes P6 straight back from Brendan Ross, and Burko having to fend off from Brock Harvey, who had a pretty good run out of 6 as well.
Will Devenish going to be very happy to see Lime Mitch get past Peter Savage there. Only one car in between him and his main championship rival.
Speak of Will Devenish, here he is underneath the rear wing for a little bit of Lewis Wedding. So Steve Bolger's actually going the contrary strategy to what I said everybody was probably going to do, get out there and manage pace. He's gone out pretty hard. He's already got a 1 second advantage over Lime Mitch. And have a look at this gaggle. So Lime Mitch just holding up proceedings a little bit for Pete Savage, who's getting pretty racy early on, realising Bolger's getting away, and now thinks that he needs to take the contrary strategy here.
I'm wondering if that's a very specific, as we're seeing Lime Mitch is defending very heavily inside. Peter's going to have a better run through the final corner and down the main straight, so they're already side by side. It's going to be a drag race all the way down this main straight. Lime Mitch is going to have a little bit of a slipstream though from Bolger ahead, so that's gonna, he's got the pace there. Look at him, he's just pulling away from Peter Savage. I wonder if it's the slipstream's doing all that, or if Peter Savage is trimmed out a little bit more. Lime Mitch able to easily cut in front of Peter Savage there.
Maybe a bit of side drafting as well, maybe perhaps old NASCAR style.
Potentially, yeah. I'm just wondering with Steve Bolger, if he saw that Peter Savage, who's under attack from Wedding now, if he saw Peter Savage, his main rival, getting past and now getting passed again by Lewis Wedding inside to turn 3, that he's like, well, I can go now and I'm not going to have to worry about it. People are going to get held up behind me. I might as well make a big gap, as they're still side by side going down through the first sector, and Wedding makes the position. So
But
no love lost
watch
there.
the dive here. Watch the dive from Savage here. He's going to angle towards the inside. No, decides better of it in the end. You can, if you're feeling very brave, chuck the car right down the inside at that turn 8 there. But Savage decided to sit behind the Acura of Lewis Wedding and bide his time. And look at the gap at the front. Lime Mitch has already eaten quite a significant amount of that 1 second lead, and he's on the tail almost of Steve Bolger. But now look at Wedding, Savage, and Devenish. Devenish on his main championship rival into turn 11, doesn't quite make it stick, but he must be absolutely singing the praises of the group ahead of him to relegate Savage down from second on the grid to right into his clutches.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have to worry too much if he has a mistake trying to overtake Savage, because there's a large gap to Brendan Ross behind him, who has then a very small gap to Burko and Redmond behind him. They are line astern.
Purple sectors popping up for Lime Mitch in both Sector 1 and Sector 2. He's really eating the advantage that Steve
Peter
Bolger's
Savage
got
had a
big
swapper.
Yeah, he had a big swapper there. We were watching it out of turn number thing, and we got Luke Joyner around in the background, and a little bit of chaos caused back there as well. But Devenish is now
Tara off as well.
Yeah, so they've all gotten safely back onto track. There was, I think, a spinner from Luke Joyner, and the cars behind with a little bit of avoiding action.
He actually got a bit of help from Noah Taro there. A significant bump to the rear of the car sent Luke Joyner around, and Tuz has stepped aside and let Luke maintain that position again. So they're down in 12th and 13th at the moment. Ujit Mishra was also affected by that. He's in 11th at the minute.
So Lime Mitch had a more than half-hard look into the first corner of Steve Bolger. He has a lot of pace very quickly in this race. Bolger got out for the initial jump, but he's just been reeled in now, and Peter Savage is not having a good start of this race. We saw him going wide in the background. Behind him was Devenish, is seriously considering passing Lewis Wedding here as well.
Keeping in mind here too, guys, that he's Lime Mitch has started to drag Wedding and Devenish up to Steve Bolger here for a little bit of this opening lap as well. They have made some ground, so they're breaking apart 2 by 2 now. Lime Mitch is stuck to Steve Bolger, and Wedding and Devenish are glued together. Pete Savage is starting to lose a little bit of touch.
Now this could come back to Savage at the end. He might be conserving his tyres, but remember, with that big swap at the final corner, he might already have damaged and might be trying to cool them down again. So he's going to be suffering this lap, and he's going to be suffering even more if Devenish manages to get a pass on Wedding just ahead as they file through turn 13 and down the long back straight. A lot of long straights in this track. It's a very beautiful track that pieces together very nicely.
Going to have Lime Mitch making a serious move down here as well. I think he's really trimmed that car in a way that it is... He's working really well, but he's got a lot of straight line speed that seems to be working for him quite well. He's right in the slipstream of Bolger and absolutely rapidly gaining on him. Is he going to make the move down to the corner? He's pulled out. Who's going to be braver on the brakes?
He's got 10 k's an hour on Steve Bolger on the main straight. I mean, admittedly, some of that's going to be from the slipstream that Bolger's creating, but that's a huge advantage to be having if he's trimmed that car out well. To get 10 k's an hour difference top speed into the braking zone for turn 1, where Bolger was getting to about 261, Lime Mitch was just north of 270.
Oh, a little slide there for Lime Mitch. The problem with that, though, is that you sacrifice here in the twisty bits. So Bolger, you can see a lot more flowing through that section there, able to use a bit more of the track, whereas Lime Mitch is much more static and assigned to his line.
Bolger's got them confident on the brakes as well as a result of that too. We saw into the first corner, even though Lime Mitch pulled out with the extra speed, he was on the brakes a lot earlier.
The best lap, out of curiosity, guys, is a lap time that we saw in qualifying, or very close to it. Lime Mitch is 56.6, I think was the... it's not that far behind what the pole time was from Bolger, so already...
55.6.
Sorry, 55.6, sorry, I apologise. So it's a second off the qualifying stance, but this is probably the race pace that we expected at its best. Everything else was going to be lower than this.
Yeah, so all kind of downhill from here we might be expecting. Look at the gap now. Bolger's actually had 2 or 3 really nice corners that he's tied together, and all of a sudden Lime Mitch just dropped off the back, and Devenish and Wedding have attached themselves to the rear of that BMW, which just streams away again. It's a great little cat and mouse.
It's like look how fast Lime Mitch catches up just on that one. He's had a decent run through there. I reckon he's a lot closer than he was last lap,
Bolger
but then Wedding is also close to him. Devenish is getting a triple slipstream here.
Yeah, and Wedding with the fastest lap gets the best thing here, but Lime Mitch is making the pass down into turn 1. He got a really good run. Bolger knew it, immediately went defensive, but there was nothing he could do about the BMW. Lime Mitch goes sailing on past it to the lead. Wedding's going to try and buy into this as well, have a piece of it. Will Devenish...
he's lost the place.
Will Devenish was all 4 wheels off the track. And now
they're going to go side by side side by side down to turn 4. You can run side by side through here as well and make the outside line work. Will goes around the outside, Wedding to the inside. They're still side by side. No one's really taken the ascendancy yet as they plunge back down the hill.
Devenish was boxed out by Bolger through the third quarter there, so he just wasn't able to use the run he had, unfortunately. So it means that at the end of this sequence of corners, Wedding has the high ground and takes the place, but for how long? It's brought Peter Savage back into this, which Wedding is not going to be happy about. They're back side by side again. Devenish not in the best position. But yeah, Lime Mitch now in the lead after all that. Bolger's maintained second, and Devenish is desperate to get past Wedding and put cars between him and Peter Savage.
A bit further back of this group as well, there's been a couple of changes of position. I think Brennan Ross and Tim Redmond have exchanged positions at least twice. Redmond now leads that battle as they trail Steve Burko. Burko had a pretty decent run last time out at Phillip Island as well, having a little bit of trouble with his back, I'm led to believe, tonight as well. So just happy to think to be out there and just circulating right now, maybe hoping something that'll come to him a bit later on in the race if the leaders start to get involved in a bit of a skirmish.
Yeah, well, Devenish's car is definitely coming to him at the moment. He is very, very close to Wedding, and I think he'll be passed at the end of this straight because he has a lot of speed and a lot of traction in that car.
Last lap of the race now, Lime Mitch, 56.3, so he's getting the hammer down to try and step away from the field. Wedding's also Devenish is getting the hammer down on the inside of Lewis Wedding as well. Breaks the Lamborghini very nicely and will take the apex of turn 2 away from the Acura. So that's Lewis Wedding down into 4th, and Will Devenish into 3rd place. I'm getting them all confused tonight.
And Wedding is now under attack from Peter Savage again, which Devenish will be unhappy about. He'll be like, I passed you, but don't let anyone else pass, please, because I need all the points I can get. And he's going to set his sights on Steve Bolger now.
Currently, if they finish where they are right now with Devenish in third and Pete Savage in fifth, that's a 5-point swing alone. So you get 16 points for third place. You end up getting 11 for fifth. So out of the 16-point advantage, there will go 5. So it'll be back to 11 if they finish where they are right now. But still,
we're only a third of the way through the race. Anything can happen still.
Absolutely.
Just a quick update on that battle a little further back between Ross, Redmond and Burko. Ross has made a meal of the first corner, almost destroying the rear of Redmond's McLaren, and he's actually dropped back now behind Turmo. So very lucky that he didn't clean up Redmond there, and he's now down into 9th place.
And there's a nice little battle shaping up for the last spot inside the top 10 as well. Noah Tara and Ujit Mishra, 2 youngsters, put in a bit of pressure on Luke Joyner.
Yeah, they're sort of having their own battle as well on the way up to the back of Luke.
Right now they are.
Hopefully it won't end the way that it did last time in the final corner.
Although Noah Tara's looking very racy behind the Porsche right now.
Back towards the front, Peter Savage is in the wheel tracks, still swinging down the main straight, but just seems to be struggling for top speed a little bit in that car.
Yeah, it might be a setup thing. He might have set it up to be able to lead a bit better, maybe anticipating trying to get past Bolger on the early laps, and now can't quite follow as effectively as he might like. But someone who has anticipated leading and has set his car up well for it is Lane Mitch. He's got a 1.2 second gap now over Bolger, and then that's a further second back to Will Devenish, who has Lewis Wedding and now Peter Savage for close company.
Here goes Noah.
So it's almost...
Sorry guys, here goes Noah Tara at turn 1 on Ujit Mishra, and he gets that move done. So it's now his turn to try and lead out and have a bit of a go at the back of Luke Joyner. Brock Harvey's about 8 seconds off this battle. Back there in P number 13, there he is, back a shot. But back to the front we go here.
And there's still, between first place and 5th place, there is still less than 3 seconds. So it is 100% anyone's race from this top 5.
We're not even yet halfway through. It's still so much to play out. Don't quite know.
Oh no,
Turmo's off the
Turmo's
background.
gone.
Oh, Turmo out of 9th place, and he's gone around.
I think he did that by himself.
We did see him have a little bit of a nice drift around that corner a little bit earlier in the practice session, so let's pick it up. He was ahead of Brendan Ross. Oh, look at the swapper from Burko on ahead, so that was issue number 1. Burko coming back onto the track after having a go at Redmond. And Turmo, yeah, just did it all on his own, lit it up, and he let them both back through as well. Actually did pretty nice to stay off the wall there. Nice 360 pirouette, pluck a gear, and off he went.
Yeah, but those rear tyres will be very, very hot, so he's going to have a very slidey, very nervous car for the next few corners, maybe even the next few laps, as Will Devenish now sets the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Steve Bolger.
And there's... Go ahead.
I was going to say, just in the background there, Peter Savage has finally made his move on Lewis Wedding, goes very deep at turn 1, and Wedding cuts back and takes that position back. So not quite the plan there for Peter Savage, but at the very front, Bolger is now taking his eyes onto Lime Mitch.
Yeah, let's have a look at that send from from Pete Savage down at turn 1. We just missed it as we were looking at the replay of what was going on with Turmo. So here it is, the big send at turn 1 on the wrong side. Probably just missed visually getting the reference on the braking marker, just a fraction too late on the brakes. Slid wide, allowed Wedding for the crisscross underneath at turn 1 and 2. Pretty straightforward passing manoeuvre that is there. If you get it right, if you get it wrong, you'll end up losing the spot straight away.
Just looking at the 3 at the front, so Lime Mitch has lost a bunch of time in the last lap, and Will Devenish has caught up. Looking at their tyres, Devenish's tyres are actually in the worst condition of all of them at the moment, but he seems to just have the pace as he's looking to make the move on Bolger here, but it's not happening. There's big slide for Bolger. That's not going to help his tyre temperatures at all. It's going to make him very vulnerable, Devenish, and gives Lime Mitch a little bit of breathing room. But Devenish is on a charge, despite having some tyres that are not looking as good as his rivals around him.
And I'm sorry to say for the viewers as well, I think we've probably made... Oh, Lime Mitch has had a moment. He's gone off the end of turn 13 it is, sorry. So that's going to make him vulnerable down here on the main straight if Bolger can get a run on him, and maybe Devenish too. I was just about to say that I think for one of the very few times we've made a bit of a mistake on our lap calculations. We're past the half distance. We're just chalking up lap 8 now, so we're probably going to get about 16 or 17 laps. I'm not sure what happened there. But here goes Steve Bolger. Will Devenish with the fastest lap of the race. On board with the roof cam.
You see, Bolger pulls out and just loses all his speed. He doesn't have a chance there.
Oh, and
Devenish is going to look to go around the outside.
And Bolger got out of the gas really early. We were on board, we heard it. He got out of the gas really early for turn number 1. Maybe just try to create a bit of separation, and in the process let Will Devenish through on the outside, taking full advantage of what racing room Bolger left for him.
I was almost certain Bolger was going to send it there. He got a great run out of the first corner, but Will just managed to hold on. So now Devenish
we got
up
Redmond
into
around,
second.
guys. Sorry, guys, we got Redmond around in the middle of the circuit. I'm not sure what's happened to him, whether he's done this all on his own. It's off the end of turn 1. Yeah, it looks like it's on his own. There's the Nissan taking a stop. Brendan Ross was in the pit lane. So there's a little thing there. And what did Redmond do here? Did he just get all crossed up on the curb? Yeah, just got unsettled by the turn 2 curb, but he's kept it out of the wall. But he has dropped a couple of spots there as he tries to recover it to the track. Ooh, just stayed off the wall.
So Rossi, the one jumping at the pit stop, he comes out now in 13th. Remember, he pitted from the battle with Burko. So 5th, 6th, 7th, or 7th, 8th, 9th. Well, sorry, let me try that again. 6th, 7th, 8th was where he was stationed.
Make
so
up
let's see
30 seconds in essentially 7 laps.
So let's see if he's able to get that back. He'll have Tim Redmond for company, it appears, because
and Brock Harvey.
Yeah, Tim's dropped quite a ways down the order after that spin. So he might be able to use them as a bit of a pick through the field.
And Redmond and Harvey just having a little bit of a scrap at the moment, a little bit of elbows out racing coming off of turn 9. Meanwhile, this battle at the front continues to rage on with 12 minutes to go.
And Lewis Wedding's now the one looking out into the turn 1 apex.
Big send.
And gets it pulled up and really narrows that exit there. So he takes the opportunity for the undercut away from Bolger, but Bolger got a great run out of that corner. And he's all over the back of that Acura coming down towards turn 4, pulls out of the slipstream. Can he get the dive in? No, he's not confident in sending it to that turn 4 corner.
I don't know if he's not confident or if he just doesn't have the straight line speed once he's out.
Here we go, guys.
Here we go. Alongside, he's got past line Mitch.
Yeah, got a good run out of turn 4, and he was alongside the BMW on the drag out down the hill, and he had the high ground where he forced Line Mitch to give up the game before they got to turn 7.
Well, with 11 minutes and 20 seconds to go, Devenish is in the ideal position. He himself getting the race win, and Savage currently getting 11 points would reduce that gap to 2.
Yeah, it'd be a huge swing if
quite
that's the case. Line Mitch has not given this up, though.
Is gonna not if Line Mitch has anything to say about it.
Not really a passing opportunity at turn 11 as Line gets a little bit of overlap and squeezes Devenish and then squeezes his rear tyres, but Devenish has the inside line for turn 12 and maintains the lead.
Going to go to crisscross, and Wedding's getting incentivised here. Going to go around the wrong side of Line Mitch on the run past turn 13.
And that's backed up the group. Look at them now. All 5 within a second as they come down the back straight. Lamborghini,
here goes
BMW,
Bolger.
Acura. Lime goes to the
Here
inside.
goes Lime Mitch.
And
Wedding wants to go the outside around the final corner.
Oh, just opened the steering a little bit late there, did Mitch. I think that just upset the balance of Wedding and allowed Devenish to get away, albeit temporarily.
Now, can that BMW stretch its legs down the main straight and gobble up the Lamborghini? He's got the Acura to worry about as well. He goes to the inside. Is it the big send? Not quite. Devenish goes deep under brakes. Lewis Wedding deepest under brakes around the outside at turn 1. Is he going to take that move? Yes, he does.
Devenish is gone! Devenish is gone out of all of this.
Oh, no!
Wow, we'll stay with the battle for the minute because this is on between Wedding and Lime Mitch, and Bolger is right there to capitalise. So too Pete Savage. Pete Savage has profiteered from the mistake of Will Devenish. Let's go back and take a look at this. What on earth did he do? I think he did the same thing that Tim Redmond did. Got upset by the turn 2 curb. No,
sorry,
before the
Tom
turn 2 curb. Lit it up before the turn 2 curb. This will be the tyre wear issue that Bagsy was alluding to a little bit earlier, that those tyres were the worst out of the group. Like Mitch has just got a very, very, very small bit of extra breathing room here, though, guys.
Yeah, just while we were watching that replay, Lewis Wedding and Liam Mitch tried to go side by side through 5, 6, and 7, and Wedding had a little bit of a moment and had to send it over the escape road, so he lost that position to Liam Mitch, and now Bolger's having a little bit of a look as well. Not quite there that time, so Wedding, with a mistake, had to run through the runoff, and that's allowed the BMW just a little bit of a breathing room.
I'll be honest, with 9 minutes left, I would not count Will Devenish out of this. If he can keep those tyres together, and these guys keep battling the way they are, he gives every chance to still catch up to this group. But he'll be absolutely gutted. As Rody put it in the chat, he was going to be fired up about it because he can be his own worst enemy at times, and that could be very much a thing that costs him in this championship too. Yeah. And Liam Mitch raced very well knowing that he doesn't have a championship on the line here, so he can be very aggressive and sort of see if Will's just going to get out of his way as Bolger goes wide as well in the background there, and just use that to his advantage, knowing that he wants to get a race win. Devenish wants to think about the championship.
Look at the drag race here between Savage and Bolger. Not a lot in it in terms of top line speed, and Pete Savage now gets on the inside of Bolger, so he'll ask for a bit of room here, which he gets. Bolger will fight it back though. They're going to fight this up to turn 4, or are they? No, Savage comes out for the minute. Bolger with a good run out of turn 3, but now the Bentley had a much, much better exit.
Oh, big dive from Lewis Wedding for the lead of the race at turn 4.
Oh, great over and under though. Look at that. Great over and under from Liam Mitch. Stole it straight back. Brilliant driving. Great situational awareness.
Yeah, Lime saw that coming from about 3 days away and just sidestepped and let Wedding sail on past.
And now Wedding's trying to go around the outside through the slower section here. He's actually managed to maintain the overlap, which will give him the inside line, not quite for turn 9 and 10. He's looking very racy here as Lewis Wedding, even though the Acura has a little bit of bump on the bottom there. So they're just giving each other a bit of a touch-up, which might allow Savage and Bolger to get back onto the tail. And that gap between the top 4 and Will Devenish, which a lap ago was 6 seconds, is now already down to 4.
I mean, Devenish was the fastest person in that first sector by at least half a second.
Oh, more than that. He was a 36.9, and the best of the league group was a 37.4 to 37.2 to Lewis Wedding, but he's bottled up behind Liam Mitch. So this gap, you're right, guys, do not count Will Devenish out of joining this battle. Maybe right at the death here. Look at them all going wide off of 13.
Of the top 5, as Bolger is going to have a serious look at Peter Savage here. Bolger has the best tyres, followed by Liam Mitch, followed by Peter Savage, followed by Lewis Wedding, and Wedding and Devenish have about the same on their tyres in terms of what they've taken out of them. And really, it's the rear tyres that are absolutely being hammered at the moment, all down in the 40%-ish that they've got left on them. The fronts are pretty okay when they're in the 60s at the moment.
So let's have a look at these lap times. A 58, I think it was 6 for Liam Mitch. No lap time for Lewis Wedding, 58.5, 58.9, and a 57 flat for Will Devenish. And Savage has had a moment there on the exit of turn 2. He had a moment and cut across the curve of turn 3, and now he's going to get passed by Bolger into turn 4. Or is he? Very deep under brakes.
He should be able to get the power down here better than Peter Savage. He should be, but he just doesn't seem to have the confidence at the moment.
Yeah, he's covered there. Now, I'm looking at something interesting here, guys. The amount of track cuts that people have racked up. So, Liam Mitch has got 2 cuts to his name. Lewis Wedding has got 2 as well. Pete Savage has got 1. Bolger has got none. And then Will Devenish has got 1. So, they've got a limit of 3 before they're on their final warning. So, out of the 2 drivers in trouble, it shouldn't be really a factor. But we have seen that a couple of them are starting to push the limits just a little bit. They don't want to start taking liberties late in the race. I mean, the one that can afford the luxury is Bolger. If he makes if he gets a little bit out of sequence or a little bit offline, he's got that luxury of having a few extra track cuts up his sleeve, where he's not going to have to worry too much about it, given there's only about 4 laps to go.
We're seeing as Bolger's looking at interesting places to pass Peter Savage.
It's actually 4 Savage wide.
But Bolger had a twitch, so this is going to wait. Devenish is like, oh, hello. here's a position that I wanted. I'm going to come and take it immediately.
Absolutely. Down the inside at turn 14, he'll take this position away from Steve Bolger. Looking a bit further through the field behind these guys, it's been a lot of positions have sort of started to string out. Steve Burko up 2 places. He maintains 6th. Termo's recovered pretty well in P7 despite his 360-degree moment coming off of the turn 9 hairpin. And then Noah Turren has managed to get ahead of Luke Joyner as well, so he's firmly entrenched in the top 10. And then Tim Redmond has now just gotten past Joyner as well.
Oh, Devenish has got a brilliant run on Peter Savage off of turn 2 and 3. He's got so much drive, considering what his tyres are like. That's an incredible run from Devenish. And he's got past Peter Savage even before they got to the corner.
Well, he left him a bit of room on the inside there, though, as well. He probably could have taken the apex away, but he let Pete Savage just have a little bit of a sneaky look back at turn 4.
But I don't think Savage would mind that too much. If he just stays on Devenish's tail, as he tries to send it at turn 8, almost made a meal of it there. This isn't too bad in terms of the championship. He can kind of just follow Devenish home. I'm actually really surprised that Bolger didn't put up more of a fight there. He had the run into turn 1, and again, just seems to be doesn't have the confidence in the braking
he doesn't
really
have the straight line speed either. We saw with Lion Mitch, every time Lion Mitch has made a pass, he's been alongside or just past someone when he hits the brakes. For almost everyone else, they get out from that slipstream and just absolutely stall out.
And you can just see the taxing nature of this track on the rear tyres. I think every single one in the top 5 had a wiggle moment coming out of turn 11.
Big slide from Devenish as well, so his rear tyres are shot. Lion Mitch has started to gap Lewis Wedding a little bit here. Traffic is going to be becoming a factor very, very late because they're starting to close down the man in 15th place, which is Manuel Centino in the Jaguar. He's probably a couple of seconds up the road from Lion Mitch right now, so he's probably going to get him maybe on the last lap, maybe a lap earlier, depending on how the timing goes.
I've seen Wedding run wide in the final corner.
Third and fourth. Yeah, so Savage to the inside. Again, doesn't quite have the top end, but he's going to be brave enough under brakes. He brake about the same point here for the 2 positions, and Wedding just drifts a little wide. Devenish rather, but he manages to take that apex.
Look at the drive.
Back.
Look at the drive out of turn 2 that Pete Savage got. He was right back alongside Will Devenish at turn 3. Now in a prime position to hold the inside at turn 4. Devenish very aggressive on the braking around the outside. Who does Bolger go with here, guys? He's got a really difficult decision to make. If one of them creates a wedge, he'll be there in a flash.
I'm amazed at how well Will Devenish held that position and maintained it.
Big
there goes Peter Savage.
There.
That's a big old send.
And a bit of rubbing
as
well.
He's made it work with a bit of help from the side of Devenish's car.
Change for the lead, guys. Change for the lead. Change for the lead at turn 9. They got traffic. Lewis Wedding has pounced. Here's the over and under from Lion Mitch again. The traffic gets out of the way. Great job by Manuel Centino to let these guys at it. But again, Lion Mitch, the situational awareness, the gap was there. He held the brake just a little bit longer, was able to then cut back underneath Lewis Wedding, and he gets the position back. That's twice now.
Well, we've got 1 minute left, so they'll make it round for another.
We're gonna get
2 more laps.
We're going to get 2 more laps in here, guys. It's a time plus 1, so they'll get to the line probably with about 20 or so seconds remaining. They're going to have 2 more laps.
And Savage is back ahead of Devenish as well.
Happening here in the final stages of the first race. Bolger very wide at the penultimate corner as well.
2 laps in a row he's done that as well.
He might just be struggling for a bit of front end there. That's a very difficult corner to get if you miss that turn-in point. So difficult stages for everyone here. You can see everyone sliding as well on the rears as they come over to start what will be the penultimate lap. They're doing Formula 3 stuff down the back straight with chasing drafts in the background there. But it's going to be Lion Mitch covering from Lewis Wedding.
He's made his defensive move. He's made the defensive
forcing Wedding to go around the outside. He's just going to take that away, give him exactly 1 car's worth of space. But on the outside there, you get a much better run. So Lion Mitch should be able to take it away. Oh, there's a big twitch. Oh, that was ugly. And Devenish has got past Savage behind.
Pair of very nervous race cars there in first and second, and the same going on behind them. Wedding aggressive on the outside, seizes P1, but leaves the gap ajar for Lion Mitch to come straight back at him off of the exit of 4. They run side by side through 5 and 6. There's contact.
Oh,
big slide. great hold from Lion Mitch, but Wedding is through. Wedding has done the job.
And Devenish is closing now as well, as Bolger has a go on Savage too. It's all happening in the top 5. Anyone could still win this race, and we've only got a lap and a half to go.
Concertina effect is starting to come into play here. Devenish has made a break for the top 2 here. He's trying to gap Pete Savage, who backs it in through turn 9. Gets it all out of shape. Bolger couldn't capitalise on it, though. He wasn't close enough to get the power down out of 9.
You know, just ahead, Lewis Wedding is having to go super defensive coming out of the hairpin.
Oh, again, everyone twitching on the power application out of turn 11. Every single one through the field. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle as they go back up the hill. Just
Wiggle, 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 wiggle. It's like a bloody Red Food concert at the minute. Everybody's wiggling all over the place.
So 16 corners left.
Oh,
Lewis
Wedding's
immediately defensive.
Yeah,
But
he's got a gap, but for how long? He's struggling with his rear tyres compared to Lime Mitch. He's just that little bit better on the throws. Lime Mitch almost has a go into the final corner, but he's going to have a much better run. Wedding immediately defensive.
And Wedding was extremely narrow through the final corner as well. He must not have any confidence in his rears at all.
Compromise.
Limich got a much better run. Limich to the inside. Will Devenish to the outside. They're going to go 3 wide down the main straight almost. Devenish not quite up with the pair of them, but Lime Mitch takes the inside lines.
Big shove!
Wedding runs right into him.
Big shove. Lime Mitch basically moved out of the way by Wedding, probably unintentionally there. It's allowed Devenish through as well. That's bad news for Pete Savage. Lewis is probably looking to see if he can readdress that if possible, but I don't think he's in a position. He doesn't want to give up another one to Will Devenish, who's now moved up to P2 and has now demoted Lime Mitch to 3rd. Savage will be seething at the minute. He hasn't been able to charge late in this. He's going to lose some of his advantage, but there's still a little bit of time left. Can he nab Steve Bolger and minimise the deficit?
You see, I think there's a timing glitch. It's showing Wedding in 5th at the moment, but I'm sure they'll correct when we go through the next sector. But it's currently Wedding from Devenish from Lime Mitch, and it's all calmed down just a little bit.
Not much time left. Half a lap to go. We'll get a readout at the top of the hill, which is the 2nd sector timing intermediate. It says Devenish is P1, but it's not. It's Wedding who's currently P1 from Devenish, followed by Lime Mitch, Steve Bolger and Pete Savage, and it's just settled down for a few seconds. Is there a late send somewhere along the line here? Not when the cars are twitching like that. Devenish and Lime Mitch well and truly out of shape, giving a free kick to Wedding here. Now the timing settles itself down. I was about to say the start of the last lap call this, but how do you call it?
We don't know what's going to happen here, because Devenish looks like he wants to send it into the final corner, take this race win.
Got to get drive.
It's going to be a drag race to the line. Who can get the power down? We know Devenish has good power. Look at that. So defensive there. Lime Mitch, he's right behind him. Can Devenish? It's going to be an absolute drag race to the line. And Wedding is going to hold out just from Will Devenish and Lime Mitch in 3rd. And Lime Mitch will be bitterly disappointed. He'll feel that Wedding might have cost him a race victory there.
Well, that's probably going to be looked at, I think, post-broadcast and post-race, just to see what happened there. But for the moment, it's a win for Wedding from Devenish and Lime Mitch. Pete Savage finishing 5th behind Steve Bolger in 4th. So we'll do the math on the points there. Steve Burko home for 6th. There's Manuel Centino a lap down. Turmo, good result for Turmo. Tim Redmond dropped a couple of spots. We did see him pirouette a bit later on in the race. Luke Joyner in 9th, having started outside the 10. Noah Tara's going to get home 10th. So those guys have swapped places late in the race. Brendan Ross, that strategy did not pay off for him from going into the pits, but he did manage to nab Brock Harvey after all that was done from Mishra and Brian Walsh and Manuel Centino. Guys, we got everybody home, albeit one of them wasn't on the lead lap, but we got all our race starters home, no non-finishers in that little 17-lap encounter.
Yeah,
and amazing considering how much back and forth there was between this, even the top, especially the top 5, but back through the field that we unfortunately didn't get to see. But damn, that was to have no attrition in that race is incredible.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate that we didn't see a few of those battles a bit further back. I would have liked to have seen what happened to Mishra and to Brock Harvey, but that battle at the front was just so enthralling, and for it to go down to the wire like that, and with a little bit of controversy as well. I think that Lime Mitch can be rightfully aggrieved by the touch between himself and Wedding in the first corner on that last lap, because that really changed the complexion of that battle. But in the end, yeah, Lewis Wedding takes the victory.
Wow. It was
Yeah,
shaping up
he's-
like it was going to be a really frenetic final lap. It sort of settled down a little bit earlier than I thought it was going to settle down, but I was expecting maybe a late send or something to the line, but the drag race didn't quite materialise.
Oh, well, we got very close to it. We do have the race winner in the booth with us, Lewis Wedding. Congratulations, chalking up a win for the Acura.
Yeah, Honda, very, very grateful and very, very happy with this one, I'm sure. It's been a difficult, long, hard road. Wasn't easy in this one. I didn't think I was going to really bring it home at all, especially halfway through the race. I just didn't have any straight line speed, but I think me and Mitch got helped a little bit with Will Bulger and Pete all just battling, and we were able to break away a little bit. So I think that saved my bacon in the end.
Yeah, it was a very tense battle in that final group. We saw you make immediate defensive moves onto every single one of the main straights. Can you just tell us a little bit about your thinking there?
Well, it seemed from when I was behind Mitch and gathering from what I could sort of see every now and again earlier on in the race, as well as in my mirrors towards the end, I saw like the other guys seemed to struggle a little bit with their rear tyres. I mean, a couple more laps and my rear tyres would have failed themselves, but I figured, I might as well just try and set up for the exit and just go straight to the inside and prevent them getting the early slipstream. The Acura has absolutely no acceleration, especially compared to the BMW. So once I got in front of Mitch, in particular, I made a point to just try and get to the inside and prevent him from getting any kind of help and tow early on down the straight. Because if I had ever just kept the normal racing line down the main straight, down the back straight, he would have caught me by the end of each of those straights and got by me.
Yeah, so nice work using your head on that one. Just quickly, that incident in the first corner of the last lap between yourself and Lime Mitch, just take us through your view on it and what happened from your perspective.
Well, I was just trying to force him to sort of go right down the inside because I know just because of how sharp the corner is, the tighter you are to the inside there, you either just sail by and miss the apex or you pretty much just stop. And I figured if I can just force him all the way to the inside, I can then go to the outside because I think Will at the time was in third and he was a fair ways back. So I forced him to the inside. I went to right back to the outside before the braking zone, and he overshot it just a little bit, and I turned in to try and get the switch back, and then I think I clipped his rear right panel as he was just getting by, and that unsettled his rear car, the rear of his car, and he sort of slid a little bit.
Well, yeah, fair enough. It worked out well for you in the end. A nice win for the first race this evening. Congratulations, Lord's Wedding.
Thank you.
Bagsy, do you want to take second place?
Yeah, second place man, Will Devenish, who has now gained in the championship by, if my calculations are correct, 11 points. Nether, I don't know if you can just quickly fact check that one for me. Yeah, what we believe is 11 points on your main championship rival, so only a 5-point difference now, despite having a spin coming out of turn 2 in the middle of the race. So how are you feeling at that point when you were facing the wrong way?
Pretty upset. I don't actually know what happened. It kind of felt like I got a bump, but then I don't think anyone was around me. It was just a really weird thing. The car just snapped, and yeah, and these GT3s are nice big pendulums. So once it snaps, it wants to keep going. So yeah, lost 7 seconds out of that. But pretty chuffed with recovering it and potentially getting that almost winning on that last turn. So it was pretty exciting from my perspective on that last lap.
Yeah, certainly there's 7-point difference there. How are you going with those rear tyres? Because looking at the data we were getting from the game, it seemed like you were the hardest on your rear tyres, but you didn't seem to be having as many traction issues as those around you, despite them being on better tyres. Do you reckon that's down to setup and how you were treating the tyres, or just down to you being able to be that little bit better on the accelerator and a bit gentler and more eggshelly?
sure. All through practice, I was struggling with the tyres after a few laps, and miraculously tonight it came all together. The tyres didn't really go above 130, and the moment they go above 130 is when you start losing traction, and I wasn't getting that. I did take a ton of pressure out, which is probably why they wore so much. So we'll put that back in for the next race and see what happens.
Oh, a very well recovered second place in the end. And third place man, Lime Mitch, who was so close to the win there, and you were going so well throughout that race. I think you led for about 70% of those laps. How was the battle between yourself and Devenish and Wedding?
Yeah, it was pretty intense throughout the race. I just knew I had the straight line, so I had to try and use that to my advantage. But then obviously we saw that like Lewis and Will had me under brakes quite a few times, so it was a lot of fun.
Was that something that you went into intentionally with your setup going and just taking out as much downforce as you could, so you'd be able to have the straight line advantage? And were you sacrificing? Were you struggling a lot more in that second sector where it's a lot more twisty?
Yeah, I definitely took out a lot of downforce, hoping to be a lot quicker in the straight. It worked, but it was more out of turn 2 and I think onto the back straight, the left-hander. I was struggling the most, but through the middle sector it seemed all right. But yeah, it was all right.
Oh, it was a very well run race and very well controlled at the front for the most part as well. Do you reckon you'll be making any setup changes into the second race, or are you pretty happy with how it was going?
I'm pretty happy with how it was going.
Oh, good luck in race 2, and hopefully you'll see you at the front battling again.
Thank you.
That's your top 3 for race 1. The championship gap has closed up, and shortly we'll be doing qualifying for race 2 to see what will happen when we go around this tyre-destroying track for a second time.
Yeah, I think we're going to advance pretty quickly to qualifying 2. I think we're giving 1 or 2 guys a couple of minutes to go to have a bathroom break and the like, and then we'll be up and running again. Just to update everybody on what has happened after that race with the point standings, based on where everybody is as it stands, the gap at the front comes down to 7 points. So it was 16 entering the night. So that is a swing of 9 in favour of Will Devenish. So Pete Savage is going to have to get his skates on in the next race and try and stop Lewis Wedding not only from winning, but also from Will Devenish from finishing ahead of him, to at least have something to fight with. That's an advantage going into the final races of the year in 2 weeks from now. Other people to jump up the order in all of that as well. Lime Mitch has vaulted up the order ahead of Brendan Ross. Steve Bolger, with his 4th place finish, gets a couple of extra points as well. Lewis Wedding, with that win, moves up into a net 5th place overall. So there's a gap with Bolger, Lime Mitch and Lewis Wedding, and they are covered by 6 points for 3rd place overall. So it is starting to come together late in the season. I did say at the beginning of the show, keep an eye out for Lewis Wedding maybe to make a late charge up the order for 3rd place, and with a win tonight, he's done precisely that. And then you get Steve Burko and Brennan Ross separated by 4 points. Those guys are 6th and 7th and 6th respectively. Burko in 7th and Rossi in 6th. So still battles being fought out all over the shop here, guys.
Indeed. You know what I thought was missing from those podium interviews? It was the voice of Peter Savage, because this is the first time in 8 races. This is the first time this sprint series that we haven't had him on the podium. He's finished on the podium every single other race. This is the first time it hasn't happened.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, actually. That is the one element missing from this. This is the only time this series that Pete Savage has been off the podium. Will Devenish was off the podium at the last race at Phillip Island through a DNF, but Pete Savage was with 5th place. I mean, 5th is still nothing to be frowned upon. You still pick up a nice chunk of 11 points for 5th place, but they've both got the same amount of podiums this year, and they're both the same amount of race wins. So 4 wins for Savage, 4 wins for Devenish, and the rest of the times outside of those 1 races, they finished on the podium all the other races. So it goes to show you how close this series actually is.
Saying that though, I think Savage will be extremely disappointed with 5th place tonight. He didn't really ever seem to have the pace to run with the absolute front of that group. It was very consistently Lime Mitch, and then, you know, Lewis Wedding, Steve Bolger, and, you know, Will Devenish getting up there and making mistakes and then getting back up there again. But at no time did Savage really look like he was going to take the ascendancy in that group and drive away, as he's done at Suzuka, at Okayama, at the Bend as well. So while 5th is certainly nothing to shirk at, it's not the result that Savage would be after, and not something that he'd be content with heading into the second race.
No, definitely not. And I expect to see maybe a slightly different approach from Pete Savage in the next race. Not so much qualifying. Qualifying is just really all about, you know, where you start the race, but we've got to see where he qualifies and then have a look at, okay, what's his strategy going to be going in from here. I expect that Savage might be a little bit more aggressive out of the gate at the beginning of the second race.
And on that note, I wonder how much that little slide coming out of the final corner on lap 2 set him back, because it looked like from there he didn't really have that much pace. I wonder if he struggled to get the tires back into a nice window. Maybe he'd overpressured them or underpressured them, looking for some more grip in the qualifying session, and then didn't revert back to a proper setup. So yeah, I wonder if that's that played into his mind, or if he's just not had the outright pace at this track. Because he seemed to early on in practice, he was very much a bit of a competition with words between himself and Devenish in the practice server before Bolger and Lime Mitch got involved. So yeah, I wonder just how much the pressure might be getting to him.
Well, pressure will now be on for the field for qualifying 2. Uja Mishra looking like he's going to be the first man out. Keeping an eye on who else is coming down the pit lane at the moment. And who we got back there with Turmo behind him. Brendan Ross is going out as well. Lewis Wedding is going out a bit earlier than usual this time. He's actually next in the queue behind Mishra as we get the green light. And away we go. So again, 4 takers to start proceedings for qualifying 2. Turmo was out there last time. Rossi was out there last time. I don't think Uja Mishra was in the lead group at the beginning of qualifying 1.
He was. It was. I'm trying to remember who the 3rd was, or the 4th rather.
Burko was out there, I believe, as well in qualifying 1. So he's spending a bit of extra time just waiting it out. Wedding's gone out, but he's dropping to the back. He's letting Turmo through, and I believe he's also waiting for Brian Walsh to go as well.
But I believe it's Pete Savage in the chat saying he wasn't feeling pressure, the car was uncomfortable, and the race never got going, though.
In the immortal words of me in the practice server, get good. Nah, that's a bit mean.
That is a little bit mean.
There's some F's in the chat at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it just kind of goes to show as well, like, how tight the group at the front is. You know, if Savage is saying that he was just a little uncomfortable, didn't quite get going, and he's not managed to really fight for the lead despite being in that front group, it really shows the quality of the group around him, and that even just misstepping the mark by that much can have drastic consequences. I mean, 5th place, yeah, we said it's not too much. It's still a great result, but he lost 9 points on his direct championship rival.
Yeah, and 5th place, though, was still only about 3 seconds off the leader as they crossed the line as well, though. So it's not like it cost him a huge amount of time. It was just more he couldn't get past.
Yeah, that's what I think he struggled with a lot. He was able to get past every now and again, but not consistently able to fight it back.
Yeah, and if you've not got anything to fight with, then you can turn into a bit of a sitting duck. That's why something like Lime Mitch having the pace, the straight line advantage, if you know you've got that in your back pocket and you can just whip it out down the main straight and say, hey, even if you pass me in the twisty section, I'm going to be right back past you at turn 1, then that's a great advantage to have, and it can sort of let you relax a little bit more and just know that you've got a bit of a racecraft advantage or a passing advantage on the cars around you.
All right, first lap starting to get underway here. Mishra followed by Brendan Ross, then Termo, and Lewis Wedding and Brian Walsh are the next men out on the circuit. We've got 6 cars parked up in the garage at the minute. Lime Mitch, Tim Redmond, Manuel Centino, Will Devenish, Pete Savage and Steve Bolger all just taking a little bit of extra time to see what happens.
So Rossi's made a mistake into turn 4, got the rears a bit locked up and crossed up, and so he's set a 37.4, which is outside of Ujit Mishra's 37.2 at the moment. So not a great start for Rossi.
Waiting to see what Lewis Wedding's sector time is when he gets going as well.
37.1.
He's on a 37 flat. Oh yeah, just short of a 37.1. So at the moment he's got the purple sector 1 time. Lewis Wedding by about 2/10. He's 2/10 quicker than this man on screen, Ujit Mishra. Now only the top 4 guys that we've just mentioned, Mishra, Ross, Termo and Wedding, are all on flying laps. Well, Termo's backed out of his flying lap. I think he's made a mistake off of turn 9. Brian Walsh has had a bit of a shocker going straight on at turn 9. So his lap is not going to be what he would like it to be. So Mishra with a pretty decent middle sector. Waiting for it to pop up. He's done a 51.4. Lewis Wedding definitely inside of that. A couple of drivers again going with the closed radiator ducts. I am seeing a bit of smoke trailing off a couple of cars. Wedding very much on it in the middle sector, full 6/10 quicker than Mishra. So Mishra's 57.7, I think, is going to be swiftly beaten by this man here. As Rossi goes second, provisionally by a 10th and a bit. Wedding into the 56s so pole by nearly a second. There's Walshy off at the final corner. Oh, cut right back across the front of Steve Burko, who was on an out lap. Walshy in the 203s. Definitely disappointed with that one. And the next man we're going to see a lap time from is going to be Luke Joyner. Probably going to be a high 57.
So purple first sector. Not as good on the second sector, unfortunately, though, but still looking to put his car in second place provisionally.
Yep, so here he comes down to the final 2 corners. Yeah, very handy through the first sector. 36.999. Definitely very, very good. 51.4 in the middle sector is the same sort of pace that Ujit Mishra was at. So if he keeps that together, he will go provisionally P2 here, and does.
But it's still a second off Lewis Wedding. He had a big moment in the final corner, didn't quite get the power of that big V8 down well enough to get down the straight in any sort of efficient manner. So not quite the end of the lap that Harvey was after, but still second provisionally with a few guys still left to go.
And Termo looks like his lap aborting his lap was a proper aborted lap as well. He's gone back to the pit, so he will not be setting a time at all. He'll be starting rear of grid as it stands right now. Next men to set laps are these 2 on screen, Burko and Noah Tara behind. Now out of these 2, Burko a 37.1 first sector. And then Noah Tara, I'm just looking for where he is on the timing screens. Actually, he's
out lap.
He's on an out lap.
No, he's on his fast lap.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not seeing a first sector time on live races. Then.
Me neither. So actually, no, it's popped up right now.
There it goes.
It's popped up right now.
1.4 seconds down going through the second sector, though.
Yeah, he lost a lot of time in the middle sector, Noah Tara there. He was only about 10th and a half away from Burko's time in Sector 1, but yeah, dropped a lot of time in Sector 2. Burko will track towards a high 57. He goes 57.5, so he picked up a little bit of time in the last sector. Noah Tara, 58.8.
And we've got Steve Bolger, Peter Savage, Will Devenish, and Tim Redmond on track now, doing their out laps.
Yep.
He's about to start.
And here comes Lime Mitch. So you can see in there just on the side of screen, he's touring the lane. Again, last man out of the lane. And I think...
Wants that TV time.
Actually, Manuel Centino, I think, is not taking part in qualifying. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but he's still yet to jump out and set a lap time. Here's the Lamborghini.
Very smooth from Savage. in the first sector, using that narrow line out of turn 1 to really get the best run into turn 4. Nicely through turn 4 as well. Nice delayed throttle response just to bring that throttle up very nicely, prevent the wheel spin. He hit the first sector mark to 36.7.
Wow.
0.36 up to the first sector mark is Peter Savage.
And we're on board with him now, listening to that throttle application. Listen to the nice, smooth application as he uses the throttle pedal to precision, just advancing it at precisely the right millimeters every time, not getting super aggressive on it. It's a little bit trigger happy. Most of that was spun up by the curb on that particular exit out of 9 as he used all the road and probably a little bit more, kicking up a little bit of dust there. But so far this is a very measured, very, very smooth lap, not very aggressive. Just keeping on the black
is fast around here. Smooth is fast around here. It's a track that really rewards smooth driving. As he gears up for turn 12, it's 8/10 that he's got in his pocket.
It's on track for 55.
Yeah, on track for what would be a 55, about 55.9 at this rate. If he's 8/10 of a second up, getting confirmation Termo did get a track cut for the middle part of his lap, so that's why he has aborted. Brock Harvey going in the live chat, basically drive it sideways or don't drive it, but I think Pete Savage disagrees with you there, Brock, because he's done a 56 flat, so lost a 10th in the third sector, but is provisionally P1. But now this man has centre stage. As we keep an eye out for the other drivers on track, bit of lock up into turn 1 there for Lime Mitch. Will Devenish is about a minute ahead, and Tim Redmond goes P3, so handy lap for Tim Redmond. There's still, how many drivers we've got yet to set a time? We've got 9 with times, 10 if you count Termo, and 11th Emmanuel Centeno. Doesn't look like he's coming out for qualifying. So just Lime Mitch, Will Devenish and Steve Bolger. The order that they will set times. Look at Lime Mitch's time. He's up on the pole time as well at 36.7.
Incredible first sector from Lime Mitch.
Actually, we've just seen, sorry guys, we've actually just seen Pete Savage has dropped out of the server, so that's why that time came up. So we need to be very careful here and keep in mind that the time set for Pete Savage was a 56.050 for when he gets back in. Will Devenish is about to cross the line, smoking from the closed radiator ducts, and he goes first with a 56.3, which is second overall. Bolger will be the next one to set a time. He's just ahead on track of Lime Mitch.
Bolger better to the first and second sector to the tune of a 10th over Will Devenish.
So it'll still be about 2/10 short of Peter Savage's time.
And Lime Mitch 2/10 up on Devenish to the second sector mark as well. So that's still not going to be enough.
There we go. Bolger.
Third place for Bolger.
Bolger now currently P3. Now we've got to go and take a look at what Lime Mitch is up to. So what was he through the first couple of sectors? 36.7 and a 50.7. So he's in the game.
0.26 down on up on Will Devenish at the second sector mark. Very narrow into the final corner. He's going to come across the line.
Track cut. Track cut.
Oh no!
He got a track cut on that one.
Too narrow in the final corner. So he is going to have to fight his way through the field to get onto that battle for the lead.
That's such a shame because he was definitely going to be in with a chance of a win if he was up at the front again. So hopefully he's able to battle his way through, but I think it's going to be a struggle for him there.
Well, at least he has the advantage of straight line speed. He should be able to cut through the tail end of the field pretty effectively with a straight line advantage. But it will be Peter Savage leading us off from pole position once again in the GT3 Sprint Series for the second race this evening with a 56.050 to set the pole time from his main championship contender, Will Devenish, on the front row.
Yeah, not wrong there, guys. Just getting confirmation that it was an internet drop for Pete Savage, but the good thing about it was he did get his lap in just before it happened. So he will start pole for this next race. But the big talking point out of all of that, the maiden podium sitter from the last race in Lime Mitch, stone cold last.
And that's something we should have probably mentioned in the interview. The maiden podium for Lion Mitch after a string of fourth places. He was up to super fourth Lion Mitch as opposed to just fourth Mitch.
Yeah, out of the races he'd contested so far where he'd actually finished, he had 5 fourth places and a 5th. He didn't finish the first race at Suzuka, and he didn't start the second race at Okayama, and he now gets himself a maiden podium in GT3, so breaks that duck of fourth places, and those fourth places were stretching back into the World Series as well.
And not just in GT3, it was the same in ATCC as well. I'm pretty sure it was a similar story in supercars, if I'm not mistaken.
Not so much for supercars. Super 2, he was very much one of the front runners. Supercars, he's sort of around about the back end of the top 10, but still fighting really, really well compared to a lot of the faster guys that are around him.
So yeah, good for Liam to break that duck and get out of the fourth house. So now he can change his name from Super Fourth Mitch to just regular old Liam Mitch.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Good. Pete Savage is back in the server, and they're just setting the grid now, which is good to see. Just waiting to get confirmation if we're going to advance straight away or if we're going to run the warm-up out, but it looks like everybody's back in and sorted.
A little bit of banter in the race chat. Lewis Wedding just giving Liam Mitch a few kilos of ballast just to say a bit of a present there.
Getting confirmation that Liam Mitch's track violation was the final corner, so he was good up until those last couple of corners. Maybe just either took a little bit too much on the inside, or he ran too wide on the outside. But I think it was more so much the inside.
Yeah, I was on board with Liam Mitch for that run to the line, and when he broke the car, it twitched towards the inside, and so he decided to try and run it narrow. It just seemed to take too much of that inside curve. Remember, there are bollards on the curbs on the inside track marker, but once they get cleaned up, you lose a lot of visibility of where the apexes are, and it just seemed that he just a touch too much there.
Yeah, I think you're right. Bagsy will probably, actually, on the subject of bollards, Bagsy will probably back me up on this one. We're going to go back to our Valhalla Gamer days, which was the precursor before ARW. I think, Bagsy, you remember we were running around here in one of those races, and they were like the bollards of death sometimes. If you hit one of those bollards, you'd get vaulted into the air, or you'd get terminal damage, or something could be really, really weird with some of these orange and white bollards on the or green and white bollards on the inside of the curves.
It's like when people who don't want their mailboxes to be hit with a baseball bat fill them with concrete and stuff. It was like that basically. They were bollards filled with concrete, and they just sort of ended you with vigor and no mercy whatsoever.
What neighbourhood did you live in where you were knocking off people's letterboxes with baseball bats, then to discover they were being filled with concrete?
Man, some of the Adelaide foothills, man, you just...
Is this like the precursor or the aftermath of the flaming bags of poo on doorsteps thing?
I've never done it personally, but I have heard of it happening.
In Adelaide?
Not in Adelaide.
Okay,
I think this is from Roxby Downs, I think, isn't it, Bagsy? This is an old Roxby Downs story.
No, this is from people in the US.
Oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Who has a baseball bat here?
Now, one thing that was interesting. Guys, one thing I was interesting to see in the practice before the race one was a few guys were actually out there. Steve Bolger on screen was one of them, actually practicing launching from the rolling start. Because remember, he was on the front row. He was pole position, and a couple of guys took the liberty of running the pit lane speed limiter and knowing where precisely to get off the limiter.
Little 1%ers that can make or break the race. I mean, if for Bolger it worked out very nicely. He got a great hole shot at the very start. Remember, he was out to a second by the end of the first sector. So that practice really did pay off. So those little 1%ers, those little attention to detail moments can mean the difference between a position or two come the end of the race.
Yeah, you're not wrong. This time, though, Pete Savage has the pole, so we'll be waiting to see how he goes in this next stanza of the race. 7-point advantage now, whittled down from 16, so he's again on the front row. Will Devenish is going to be starting alongside him, though, so the top two in the championship starting 1 and 2 on the road for this race. And look out for one very, very fast BMW going to try and scythe his way through the pack. He's going to be very careful, though, that he doesn't have any overlap. Pete Savage going back to check something there. We'll be very careful that he doesn't have any overlap before the start-finish line, or he will get a penalty. We have seen 1 or 2 of those handed out, so we've got to be really careful starting from the back of the grid. I believe, he is actually starting plumb last. Manuel Centeno didn't qualify, so he gets the distinction of starting on 14th, and Line Mitch will be 15th. But the rest of the grid, let's let Bagsy tick them off.
Thank you. Now, as you said, P1 on the grid, P1 in the championship, Peter Savage. P2 on the grid, P2 in the championship, Will Devenish, with a much smaller gap than there was before. We only have 7 points between these two, with 75 points on offer, so they both have to be on their absolute best game so far today. But directly behind them, we have Steve Bolger in third and Lewis Wedding in fourth. Wedding, the previous race winner, provisionally. We're not sure if there will be any action from that last corner incident with, the first corner incident with Lime Mitch. But these two both have the capability of spoiling the day of Devenish and Savage ahead. Tim Redmond and Steve Burko battling throughout that last race, starting on the third row in 5th and 6th. Steve Burko, Brock Harvey in 7th alongside Ujit Mishra in 8th. Luke Joyner in 9th will start alongside Brendan Ross. Noah Tara in 11th, not having the best outing tonight, but he has had basically no practice, so it's understandable that he's not 100% on the pace. Brian Walsh in 12th. Termo in 13th, we saw him get a track cut on his flying lap, so he had to pull out of that one with no time set. Manuel Santino didn't leave the pit lane for 14th, and Liam Mitch, we saw track cut on the final corner. He will be blazing his way through the field with that very slippery BMW, and we'll see if he can make it up to the front.
Michael, what do we think here? Second verse, same as the first?
Oh, I think I'm going to ride on board with Lime Mitch the first few corners. I want to see what's going to happen there. It'll be a great challenge for him to get up into that battle for the top 5. But if we have any kind of action, anything close to what we had in that first race for this second race tonight, it would be another great evening of GT3 racing.
Yeah, not wrong there. They've got a couple of corners to go. So Lime Mitch will be behind Termo at the start of this race. The next car directly next to him, Manuel Centino, being asked to follow directly in the wheel tracks of Brian Walsh. So there they are at the back of the field. But you're right, I'm going to be very interested to see how Lime Mitch is tracking as well. We'll keep an eye on him. There he is as he tries to progress through this field. For the moment, let's address the starter. We are under starter's orders. The field goes to the pit lane speed limiter as they crawl at this 80k per hour limit to the control line. Clock will start any second now, and we'll be underway for the next 30-minute encounter, the second race of the duel in the Desert Twin Sprint. And we've started, but we've got timing has not started counting down. So there we go. There's a little bit of an issue here.
Yeah, that's...
So this is going to be a red flag situation and an aborted start, as there's no countdown timer.
Do you think these guys know that yet?
I'm not sure if
yeah,
they
I'm not
do.
sure. Well,
I'm not sure if they do. Yeah, I think
Devenish is just gone. Yeah.
They realise now Will's called it, and they're all being given us a few penalties here. So something didn't go quite right with how the timing ran. Every now and again we do see this happen. So we'll address this in a red flag situation, and we'll step away for a few minutes here, and we'll let them sort themselves out. Oh well, that was a bit of a false anticlimax to begin the race. I was a bit worried. I saw that the clock was not counting down, and I think the last time the last race we had, we were about 10 seconds advanced on the clock before we ended up getting essentially the green flag to go. So Will be in there right now and just sorting a few things out. So we might have to just set the grid again. We'll take a couple of minutes away here. So apologies to the viewers who are tuning in very, very late for this one to finish. We certainly didn't expect that one to take place. Just having a little bit of a bit of a look around to see what's been happening out there tonight as well. I'm just going to go and have a bit of a check on some of the other AMS Oz competitors that have been off doing some other things tonight, just to see some of the results. I believe over at ASC we might have had a couple of competitors, not only from supercars but from GT3 as well, out there competing. And let's have a look at the order. So Luke Rosella, who's raced here in the GT3s and also Porsche Cup and supercars, he was over racing tonight. Good result, 5th place finish in one race, and I think looks like a 4th in the other. So that's not too bad a night for him. Hans Brunswick, 14th in, and not what's that there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9th. So not too bad at all over there as well. So a couple of AMS Oz competitors doing some good things over at ASC, stepping up and trying something a little bit different tonight, so good on them.
The diversity of the AMS Oz personnel and the field as well, jumping into other machinery. It's nice to have the crossover with our friends at ASC and some of the other series, Apex 3 Wing as well. I know Nether and Bagsy, you guys have a lot of history over there as well. So it's nice that we do have that connected community with the other major stakeholders in the Automobilista Australia community.
Yeah, precisely. I believe there's another season not too far away from getting off the ground with ARW. I think they're about to start testing a number of cars for whatever the season's going to be. So probably at least another 6 weeks or so away, maybe 7. So maybe tracking towards the end of October, we might see something, but not yet confirmed as to what that's going to be running over there. It'll be the 10th season for ARW as well, so it's been going on for a little while. Good to see. Now, we got word through that the reason for why the clock did not start counting down, this is a bit of an unusual one, chalk this up to hashtag AMS things, that the guys were too close to the safety car, so they didn't get the green flag. I've not heard of that happening before, but nonetheless, that's what's happened. And we'll give Bagsy another shot at this grid.
All right, well, we've done the grid, so we'll just go for a quick Cliff Notes version of the grid. Peter Savage, Will Devenish on the front row, 1 and 2. Bolger and Lewis Wedding, row 2. Row 3 has Tim Redmond in the McLaren and Steve Burko in the Bentley. Row 4, Brock Harvey alongside Bhujan Mishra. Row 6, Luke Joyner and Brendan Ross. Noah Tara and Brian Walsh are behind them. Termo and Manuel Santino, and Lime Mitch bringing up 15th place.
That was a very quick summation of the grid, Bagsy. Well done. All right.
Real question is, who's going to win this race?
Well, we could throw a blanket over the top 5 in the last race, but it's going to be extremely difficult for Lime Mitch, I think, to get through this field in a quick time and try and keep up with this leading pack. He's going to have to burn through a fair bit of tyre, I think, to make that move on every driver and get up into at least the top 10. I think he'll be inside the top 10 by about lap 2. Just seen Brian Walsh wipe out a DRS board back there. That's not going to be of any use to anybody tonight. I think Lime Mitch will probably be pretty close to being inside the top 10, maybe within about 2 or 3 laps, but then I think it'll get a little bit more difficult from there.
I reckon that Lime Mitch will be in the top 10 by the end of lap 1 and on the tail of the top 5 by the end of lap 3. I reckon this is going to be the breakout for the BMW driver. That's my call. Big plays here.
That's a
Lime
big
Mitch.
call. That is a huge call.
I believe, Mitch. What about you, Bagsy? Who do you believe in?
I think Bolger's going to take a win here. Probably disappointed that he didn't capitalise on his pole position last race and didn't even get to the podium in the end. So I think he'll have a bit of drive. I think he will have trimmed some of the downforce off of that car so you can have a bit more straight line speed.
Getting a couple of other comments coming through. Greg Tara thinks his son can make it up to P5 by the end, by turn 1. That's going to be one hell of a send.
That'll be from 11th on the grid to 5th. Whoa.
All right, let's buckle our seatbelts here, gentlemen. Hopefully we get a start this time. Everybody looks like they're in correct order. Just waiting on the clock to start counting down again. And clock has not started counting down, so I think we're going to have another aborted start here, guys. This is not looking very good at all. And there goes all the shenanigans. Everybody's not happy. So, and I can't say I blame them. I'm wondering whether or not we may have to have an aborted
reset.
Another reset, full reset of the server potentially here. Something clearly amiss. What we might do just for a brief moment again, and apologies to all the guys that are tuning in again late waiting for this to happen. We might just step away for a few seconds and just go and check on one or two things, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Just getting a little bit of word through. It looks like we might have to do a quick server restart just to get ourselves going again. They were thinking that it might have been maybe a couple of guys dawdling on the grid, but we didn't see any of that, so it's a bit of an unusual situation here. So hopefully it's going to be fingers crossed third time lucky here, guys.
Yeah, not quite the way we want to finish off the night by having a few server problems, but this is, of course, Automobilista being Automobilista. On the plus side, though, at least it's not like some of the starts that we've seen in sports cars before, where safety cars haven't left the grid and have caused accidents and all sorts of other stuff. So this stuff does happen in real life as well. It's just far more dramatic in that setting than it is here, where you can just sort of click a button and reset everything. Or hopefully click a button and reset everything.
Yeah, hopefully it's just a simple case of clicking a couple of buttons and resetting everything. The good thing is we don't have to go through the entire phase of re-qualifying everybody. The grid can be set by file. It's just a little bit of I guess, an annoying end to a night when little things like this happen, but sadly they do happen, and we just have to, I guess, suck it up and deal with it sometimes. This is what happens when you modify a game the way that you do, and the worst thing we have to worry about is getting 15 drivers back into a server so we can set the grid in a timely fashion and advance it pretty much straight away. But let's talk a little bit about this circuit, I guess, Michael, because as much as this is renowned for its Formula One exploits, it does play host to GT3 and rounds of the World Endurance Championship too.
Yeah, it actually has hosted the final race of the World Endurance Championship season since 2015, except for the Super Season, which finished at Le Mans not last year, the year prior. So it's a track which has a lot of WEC history and a lot of WEC prestige as well. Toyota won their first WEC championship with a win at this track. Also, this was the last track that Audi raced in the LMP1 category in 2016, where they actually won that race, a 1-2 finish for Audi that year, and something that will be burnt into my memory for the rest of time is the joy and the high fives and the backpacks of the Audi crew as they finished their last pit stop in the darkness of Bahrain to their last ever pit stop after what it would have been 16, 17 years in LMP1 competition at that stage. So a very emotional moment there, but it's also played host to a few classic races in WEC history as well. I think the 2015 finale where the leading Porsche, the championship leading Porsche, suffered a number of mechanical gremlins throughout the entire race and basically limped home at the hands of Mark Webber to take the championship, is an absolute classic race in WC history. So it's certainly got a sports car heritage as well. And there is something very, very special about having the transition from day to night, the desert sunset for the 6 hours of Bahrain, which is now the 8 hours of Bahrain. They've added a few extra hours onto it as well. So a really, really cool track and a lot of WEC heritage. And in fact, the round for the WEC is actually upcoming for the Bahrain circuit. Not the next round of the series, because the next round is at Le Mans in 2 weeks' time. Actually, a week away from track action, we are at Le Mans. So if you want to get on board with the 24 hours of Le Mans, if you want to find out more about it, I suggest coming over to my little corner of the internet, the World Endurance Championship subreddit, r/WEC, where I've put together a massive info post, and you can go and research everything to your heart's content in there. But yeah, the round after that, coming up in late October, will be the 8 hours of Bahrain to end off the truncated 2019-2020 season, but a very important season nonetheless.
Yeah, not wrong. Very, very disrupted sort of year for motorsport in general, WEC being no exception to that as well. And I guess the other thing too is there's a lot of motorsport in general starting to come back, which is really good to see as well. I was sort of a bit spoilt for choice and looking at this weekend going, we've got MotoGP and Formula One back to back, but then for me it gets interesting because then the NFL starts. So it's going to be a really long Sunday night, Monday morning for me. But then, yeah, looking forward to Le Mans in a couple of weeks as well. I mean, it's hard to tune in for the 24 hours, but it's always good to see, tune in for as much of it as you can during the course of the time. Yeah, I mean, you're an alien. You sit there and watch the whole entire time. I mean, I've got a child here.
Sleep.
I've got a child here. I've got a hall pass, so.
Yeah, you got responsibilities and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. That's fair. But team no sleep. Sleep is for the week, and Le Mans is on the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Team no sleep. This is how you do it. Honestly, I've tried the team no sleep thing once or twice before. I've gotten close, but I've never actually done it. But I think this year in particular is going to be extremely difficult because not only is the 24 hours of Le Mans finishing at, I think it's going to be 10:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time on Sunday night, but the final stage for the 2020 Tour de France starts only an hour after that as well, and that will run through till however early in the morning as well. So that is going to be a very, very big night for sports, both motorized and pedal power.
Oh yeah,
I'm definitely going to give it a go this year because I'm going to be in quarantine in Western Australia, so I'm not going to have anything else to do. So why not try and stay awake between 3 hours for the whole race?
What not? What a good reason to give it a go.
Yeah,
I just have no responsibilities, and so I'll just do it.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned about the quarantine thing here, Baggsy, because the one thing that we probably should make mention of here on the broadcast is that we're hoping you'll be able to be with us for the final round of GT3 because you are moving to Perth, as exploits for work have taken you there. So you've moved from Adelaide to Melbourne and then back to, now you're going off to Perth. So on behalf of the guys for Automobilista Australia and here at Outward Broadcasting, we wish you all the very best for life in Western Australia.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to commentate on the final round because it's set up to be an exciting one. Because no matter what happens in this race, the championship is going to go down to the final round. So I definitely want to be there. Fingers crossed the hotel internet is good enough to let me join in Discord and watch the race.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay, third time lucky, guys. Let's keep our fingers crossed here. And we just got to wait for a couple of guys to get onto the grid. And then we will be away.
So track's going to be very, very green now that they've wiped the running off of it. So
no, they've actually reset it back to heavy, so they've actually put it back to what it should be. So according to my screen, that's what it says anyway.
Well, there you go.
So we'll see how we go. But we have got all runners on the track. So again, this whole night gets a little bit longer, but it just what's the word for it? I keep thinking about, we keep building to this sort of battle that we've had from race 1 and looking forward to what happens in race 2. I think Higginson's got the right word. It's intrigued. We're building up the intrigue, but we've been punctuated by the false starts.
Yeah, it's just keeping you on the hook. That's what we're doing. We're just keeping you on the hook just a little longer, just delaying the inevitable, delaying the gratification of this second race. So fingers crossed we do get that gratification. Fingers crossed we do have some awesome action tonight for the second race. Fingers crossed for Peter Savage and Will Devenish. Well, they would have their fingers crossed that they get one up on their championship rival.
Well, Bags, in lieu of doing the grid, because I mean we've done it twice already, we probably won't run through it again. Let's just retouch on our predictions for this one. So Bagsy's prediction was that he thinks Bolger is going to take a win for this one. It was Floody who was saying that, what did you say again, Flood? You thought
Mitch. I believe in the Mitch.
You believe in the Mitch. Okay. My money here is going to be on Pete Savage to get one up on Will Devenish and give himself a little bit more of a points buffer. He won't, so he'll get back some of that buffer that he had coming into the night, but it won't be the same as what he had entering the night.
Actually, I'm just going to interrupt this train of thought. It looks like Manuel Centeno is having some server problems or something. He doesn't appear to have moved from the grid, and also his car seems to be invisible. So I think we're going to lose the Wildcat
problem.
Yep,
yeah, I think we're going to lose the Wildcat Jaguar.
Yep,
unfortunately.
Very possibly we're going to lose that car.
That's a real shame after the few little problems that Manuel hasn't been able to get in for the second race. So hopefully, if you watch this back, I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore. Yeah, bad luck.
Yeah,
feel sorry.
Unfortunate situation, I guess, is the only real way we can describe that one. And here we go. Right, everything's crossed over here, guys. So there's going to be a slightly longer left-hand side of the grid going down the main straight, which is on the driver's left. And you can see it there because we're missing one car on the back of the right-hand queue. But that might open up the door a little bit here for Lime Mitch. Maybe if he gets a good run and after the light goes out, he'll have a little bit of room on that right-hand side.
Yeah, plenty of space on the right-hand side for him to roll on through. All right, take 3. All eyes are on the timer in the top corner.
Here we go. It's counting down this time.
It's rolling.
We're good to go.
We're going to have a start. They're coming up to the line. Peter Savage has the field. And we're away.
Alrighty. Who gets the run down?
It's a much better start for Will Devenish. Will Devenish has got the jump on Peter Savage, and Lewis Wedding is looking to go with him. And Peter Savage has vanished off of my screen. Is he gone?
No,
he's back.
Little bit of server lag, so that's not too bad.
Oh my goodness.
So very, very unlucky there. Lewis Wedding's up into P3. Lime Mitch has made up 3 spots already, although one of them on Manuel Centeno was there. He was off the track too, Lime Mitch, as well, so he would have racked up a track cut there. Pete Savage, I reckon's having internet problems, guys. This is not good for the series leader. He is dropping down the order like a stone. I think he might be out.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Completely gone. And in the
100%
garage. So
there it goes.
championship implications. We did warn everyone at the beginning of the night that this could happen with Savage on the phone hotspot. So he's dropped out of the race with Will Devenish in the lead. This could swing the championship drastically back towards Devenish. But it is Devenish, Wedding, Steve Burko, Steve Bolger, then Ujrit Mishra is your top 5 for the start of the second race.
Lime Mitch already up to P9 here, guys, and he's on the back of Brendan Ross in the back of shot. You can just see his nose poking out from behind the Nissan GTR on the run out of turn 9. He'll be looking for a move down here at the turn 10. Same as Weddings, looking at the inside of Devenish, gives him a little bit of a hip and shoulder. Nothing too aggressive. He's created a wedge, though, for Steve Burko, who couldn't take advantage of that situation.
10 positions. He started 13th.
Steve
How did he
Burko.
get there?
Burko?
No, not
You know,
Burko.
Wait, no, sorry. Never mind. My thing's showing me wrong. Don't worry.
I was about to say, you're probably
I'm
looking
being
at
shown
something-
incorrect information on my screen.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, after that breath of air. So
a
it's,
little bit of
Devenish-
contact between Burko and Devenish out of the final corner. Nothing malicious in that one, but it does mean that Bolger has got a little bit of a run here on Burko. Wedding already going the defensive route.
He does not want anyone to have that slipstream as Burko and Bolger both pull out on Will Devenish here.
And Burko is going to send it up the inside and doesn't quite take the apex away for turn 2, but will hold the inside line for turn 3. Now it's going to be a drag race down towards the opening turn 4. Now it's going to be interesting to see how fierce Burko is. Remember, his teammate is Peter Savage, so still showing. It's in, and he's taken out.
I was about to say, I cut back just to have a look at Ujrit Mishra making position on Steve Bolger. This has now caused a log jam going into 6.
And Burko jumps off the track there to avoid the contact. Bolger wraps around Mishra, and they will go a wrap around Burko as well. Burko, I think he's going to cede all those positions.
This is
off track.
We've got 8 cars in one spot at the moment. It's insanity.
It's
gone back to have
massive backlog here, and there's contact between Devenish and Mishra as they go through towards turn 9 and 10 as well. It's just all happening here.
And this is giving Lewis Wedding a huge free kick, and it's giving Lime Mitch a big grin because he knows he's starting to make positions on these guys. He's back in P8 at the moment. He has cleared Brendan Ross, but he lost a bit more position to Luke Joyner. So here's Devenish having to fight Ujrit Mishra, who's had a sensational start, qualified really well, in the thick of it, centred on Bolger. Bolger's got that position back, but everybody boxing on in the early going here. And gets a hip and shoulder from Joyner. That moves him wide. That allows Lime Mitch through. So there's an easy one for Lime Mitch. And looks like Rossi's going to go through as well.
Yeah, so Mishra just got a little out of the groove coming out of turn 11, and that was all the invitation everyone else behind him needed to really pounce. A bit unlucky for Mishra there, but have a look at Lime Mitch, already sending it on the inside of Joyner. He's gone from, the rear of the field, 15th, up into 6th. Remember what I said? He'd be in 5th place by the end of lap 3. 2 laps in, and he's already up into 6th. Look at that.
It's like the race whisperer, this guy. He's got it all on a string at the minute. And look, everybody, here goes Devenish on Bolger. We've got Burko on Tim Redmond. And then Luke Joyner resends it on Lime Mitch at the first corner.
It's big cramp up between Devenish and Bolger. That's really held them up. And Burko's got to run on Bolger. Redmond's got to run on both of them here as they file into turn 4. The Bentley tries to slide up the inside of the Jaguar and does. They're going to go side by side back down the hill. We've seen this already once tonight. And who's going to get out ahead? It's going to be Burko who slams the door. And now Redmond's incentivized by this as well. Is he going to send it on the inside of Bolger? He's got Luke Joyner around the outside as well. It's madhouse. Madhouse. And look at the gap at the front. Look at the gap.
Wedding has checked out at the front of this field. He can afford to manage his pace enormously right now because all the fighting and squabbling going on behind is just music to the Antara NSX's ears right now.
Second to 11th is 5 seconds.
And first to second is 5 seconds. That's the gap we're talking about at the moment here. as this battle pack continues. Luke Joy has been sent around by Brendan Ross.
Yep.
Oh, that was a big... Oh, no.
And that
big
was
touch on the rear coming out of turn 11, and that sent the Lamborghini into the wall.
And Lion Mitch is trying his hardest to make Michael's prediction come true. I'm not sure if Michael placed a large bet on his prediction of Lion Mitch there and incentivized Lion Mitch with a bit of it, because he's absolutely going for it at the moment.
Here's a replay of what happened, and just the slightest of nudges from Brendan Ross on the back of Luke Joyner there. And Rossi's penalising himself here. I think he's moving over to let Joyner back through, so doing the right thing and giving it back. So that's
just like to point out, Lion Mitch crossed the line in 5th, just ahead of Redmond by about 1,000th of a second exactly at the line. So your prediction was 100% correct, Michael.
I am the best.
I'm just noticing as well that there's been a couple of retirements here. So Ujit Mishra looks like he is out.
He lagged out.
Mishra, and Luke Joyner's come in, I think, to make a stop. So I think maybe he's got some damage to repair. So this has been an early attritional race for everybody at the moment.
Yeah, you kind of put the mocker on everyone by saying the first race went attrition-free. Already, we're in, 4 laps in, we've lost 3 of the drivers in this race. So at this rate, we might not have any drivers left come the end of the race.
And Lion Mitch is taking some interesting lines back behind Bolger there. I'm not sure what that was. Maybe he's got a bit distracted. But it's unfortunate for Peter Savage. What he's hoping at the moment is that Steve Burko, Steve Bolger and Lion Mitch all pass Will Devenish, so that the points damage is not as bad as it could be, because at the moment it's going to be an 11-point lead for Will Devenish. Actually, no, it'll be more than that. It was a 7-point lead, so it'll be a 13-point lead for Will Devenish if he finishes where he is at the moment.
Here's a nice little battle on the back end of the top 10. Brock Harvey in 8th, defending from Noah Turra in 9th. Noah's had a good turn of speed, up 2 places from where he started. Might very well pick off the Camaro down here at turn 1 if he gets a nice run. And Turmo not too far up the road from these guys as well. There he is, just in the front of the camera lens. Wedding continues to set quick laps out in front. The gap had stabilised for a very brief moment at about 4.9 seconds. It's now shot back out to 5.5. Bolger now usurps Lewis Wedding for the fastest lap of the race.
And he's going to usurp Steve Burko for 3rd position as well. Just a little deep under brakes is Burko. Very deep under brakes is Lion Mitch. He goes off into the weeds there, which is very much an achievement at Bahrain where there are no weeds.
That's going to be 2 track cuts in 2 corners, essentially, because he ran wide in the final corner as well. So he's lost the position to Tim Redmond.
Yeah, just having a look at the live timing for Lion Mitch, and he didn't rack up. He racked up a track cut last time around, but that will definitely probably be one there as well, I would say.
So he's currently in battle with Redmond still, and this battle for the second between Devenish, Burko and Bolger rages on. Again, we're seeing that Bolger isn't nearly as comfortable on the brakes as his competitors are, and he's losing an opportunity to make passes in some of the more brave places. But Devenish hasn't been able to step away from this group yet either. And in fact, of that group at the moment, Bolger is the fastest, who's the last lap around. But Burko is certainly showing a clean set of heels to the Jaguar after being just outside that battle for the top 5 last race.
Lion Mitch is... he's put it up the inside of Redmond there. Redmond was not expecting that.
And that's really a passing opportunity. The corner is a decreasing radius, so you can't really send it in there. But Lion Mitch doesn't care about that. He's just done it anyway.
Yeah, and Burko, just ahead of them, is right on the back of Will Devenish, reading the serial number on his exhaust pipe. And Devenish is weaving his way across the track to try and break that slipstream. It's probably almost to the point where he shouldn't really be weaving anymore, because it's starting to become a defensive move.
Again, Bolger looks to the inside first and then backs out of it. Burko tries to have a look as well, but he doesn't jump in. And it's as you were once again. So this battle for second is still the tightest one on track at the moment. Lime Mitch and Tim Redmond are continuing their squabble over 5th place. And then at the tail end of the top 10, you have Brock Harvey and Noah Tara almost connected by the hip in the Camaro and the GTR. Brendan Ross in 10th, Brian Walsh in 11th, Luke Joyner trying to recover after that damage in 12th, and then the 3 retirements at the moment. Lime Mitch again on the inside of Redmond in turn 8. Oh, gets a big slide on the exit as well. And now Redmond's going to go around the outside. No, can't quite get it done that time, but did try. And Will Devenish has run wide, just up ahead. Oh, I thought
Lime Mitch is pushing really hard, and it's showing because he's making lots of small mistakes, and it's costing him the chance to catch up to this battle. That being said, there's still 20 minutes left, so he's got plenty of time, and he is being slightly better in his tyres and a couple of those ahead of him.
You'd almost suggest to Lime that maybe it'd be just wise to sit and follow Redmond for a little bit if he's struggling and making a little consistent mistakes. Just to sort of get into a groove and get to a flow and just try and sort of ease your way back into the groove.
Yeah, especially since really these guys aren't that far down the road from them. It's a second and a half, and realistically he's still in the slipstream range, and these guys in front are battling too. So he's very easily got, we know he's got the pace on him because he was right up there with them in the last race.
Devenish has eked out just enough of a gap now that he doesn't have to worry about Burko in the slipstream. But Burko's got to worry about Bolger in the slipstream as they approach turn 1. Again on the anchors. Bolger's much further up this time, and he's going to send it this time around. And he gets the apex. Can he close the door into the turn 2? Not quite. And Burko slaps across the front of him yet again.
He should have the better run coming up to turn 4 though. He doesn't have that. He's missing that straight line speed again. That seems to be the biggest problem he has.
Yeah, and he was very conservative, rolled out of it quite early. I was riding on board with Bolger there, and he rolled out well before the corner just to make sure that he didn't get involved in anything with Burko. Although he's got a great run through here. Burko's run a little wide, and Bolger's going to try and wrap around the outside here. Goes a little deep under brakes. Can he hold the overlap into the next set of corners? That's going to be the important part as they dive into turns 9 and 10, and he looks like he's got the move done.
He has, and that's helped Lime Mitch as well because it's brought them a bit closer. Although he's not quite got it done. Burko's pulled the over-under on him. Now it's going to be a drag race out of the hairpin.
Drag race out of 9 up to 10. Burko's going to hold here on the inside, but the more that these guys battle, the further up the road that
very wide from Bolger.
Will Devenish starts to get. Now Lime Mitch wants to pounce on Steve Bolger around the outside. Oh, and Bolger got loose. He got very, very loose. And he manages to save it, but not before Lime Mitch sides through on the outside. What a fantastic pass around the outside. Great hold. Now Tim Redmond's going to have a go at the Jaguar.
I was sure they were going to touch there. I was sure that there was going to be contact, but it looks like they managed to sneak through without touching each other. Just a little moment for Bolger as the BMW came across. That's Lime Mitch now into 4th. And they're
might be third in a minute. Might be third in a minute. Here he goes down the outside of Burko. So that's an easy pass. The top line speed of this BMW is something to behold.
How's Burko going to be on the brakes though? He's much better on the brakes there.
Oh,
Lime Mitch really pinches it off there, but
yeah, a little bit of a late move there, but he left him just barely enough to get through there, but he slammed the door very, very firmly shut. And now look at this, Tim Redmond's going to try the same trick that Lime Mitch did at turn 10. He's going to try it around the outside at 4 on Bolger. No.
Bolger's not going to be passed around the outside twice in less than 1 lap.
No, definitely not. He cut that off at the pass right immediately. Bit further behind these guys, there's a nice little scrap going on between Brendan Ross, Noah Tara and Brock Harvey. Here they are, getting it on like Donkey Kong out of turn 3, 4, 5. And now 6. Oh, there's a bit of touch there. Brock Harvey sent Brendan Ross off the road. Where's Rossi going? Oh, there he goes. He's finally rejoined behind this battle. And Noah Tara took full advantage of that as well and got Brock Harvey at turn 7.
Just going to say, last lap, Lime Mitch, he was only a 10th slower, less than a 10th slower than Will Devenish, despite overtaking 2 cars, one of them around the outside. So I think Lime Mitch will be catching Will Devenish shortly.
Now this gap progression for Lewis Wedding has sort of stopped as well. Last lap around, Devenish was quicker by about a quarter second. Just in general, having a look at the lap times for Lewis Wedding over the last couple of laps. He's been a little bit up and down. There's a 58.5 in there on one occasion as well, but it's mostly been mid 57s, whereas Will's had lap times in the high 57s and now just started dipping into the low 57s. So there is a little bit of time gain being made by Will in this phase of the race.
Especially
and that's evidence
now.
Yeah, and that's evidence of that. Now doing a sub 57 for the fastest.
And Turbo takes it away immediately.
Wow.
And Turbo's caught up to Tim Redmond. He's joined this battle pack for the podium.
He's hanging on really well here, and especially if guys like that keep making mistakes like that. Burko and Bolger making a couple of mistakes too. Redmond's going to pounce and Turbo's going to join him.
Redmond's going to round both of them up here if he finds the right lane. Bolger goes to the inside to defend. Burko to the outside. Redmond stuck behind Burko. Not really enough room there to capitalise, unfortunately, for the McLaren because of Bolger and Burko taking away all the available track space after they ran into each other at turn 1.
Yeah, I think he needs to make the early call to go to the inside and make it 3 wide. Bolger sends it.
Oh, he's off the track.
Way too far, all the way to the fence.
Yeah, well up the fence there as well. So that costs
So that
him.
is 4 places gone.
That's a free one there for Turbo for Tim Redmond and getting off the hook for Steve Burko. But he's not off the hook just yet. Still a cork in a champagne bottle.
So I just ran on board with the replay for Bolger there, trying to decipher what happened, and he way missed the braking point. Like it might have been a little unsighted with the BMW, sorry, the Bentley on the outside, but he just went 50 meters longer than he should have there, and yeah, ended up in the fence almost. So that's given Burko just a little bit of breathing space, but he'll have Tim Redmond and Turmo on his neck in just a second.
Have a look at this gap, guys. This gap at the front is starting to evaporate for Lewis Wedding. Will Devenish is catching him, and last time around, Devenish was a full 0.8 of a second quicker. Times this time, Wedding, what did he said? Missed the mark on what he said. Devenish said a 57.3.
Wedding got a track cut in the middle sector.
Yeah, he did too. He's got a track cut for that one, so the gap now down to 4.1.
And it seems to be all in the middle sector that Wedding is losing his time. The first sector is, you know, a 10th here, a 10th there, but the middle sector, last lap around, prior to this one that they've just crossed the line, it was 6/10 in the middle sector. We can't see what it was this time because of the track cut, but the gap reduction suggests it was about another 3 or 4. So Wedding seems to be losing time in that middle sector there, where the Huracan seems to be a bit more stable platform.
They're both pretty similar with their tyre wear so far. In fact, Turmo has the best tyres of the front 3. Burko's tyres are pretty similar as well. Turmo actually is being very gentle in his tyres. Whatever Turmo's setup is, it is very, very nice to his tyres.
How's Lime Mitch looking on tyres here, Bagsy? Because I get the impression he probably used a fair bit to get through the field, so he hasn't been able to range up on the back of Will Devenish.
They're currently better than both Devenish and Wedding.
Okay.
But as we know, the percentage isn't the biggest thing at the moment, as we see Redmond and Burko side by side in the background there. It's not a very nice move from Redmond. It's not necessarily about how much they've worn, but what their temperatures are, which we can't see, unfortunately. So it could be that their temperatures are a bit lower than what the wear is indicating.
So Wedding has begun to respond. That time around, it was almost even in the middle sector, and so the gap is being held at just under 4 seconds. But importantly, it has breached that 4-second mark. So the psychological game of Devenish gaining in on the back of that Acura is beginning to be played as we've got 10 minutes left in this race. Wow, that's blown past extremely quickly.
Still a 4/10 of a second gain by Will Devenish on that last lap as well. And Lime Mitch,
we're going to go 3 wide down the main straight for 4th. Redmond, Burko and Turmo. Bentley, McLaren and Viper coming into the first corner. They all break at the same point. Who's going to take the inside line here?
They're still very wide.
Burko's going to come
Turmo.
out with it. Turmo was was a bit too far wide compared to thing. And have a look, it's also going on down the main straight between these three as well. Noah Tara having to defend really heavily from Brock Harvey and Brendan Ross. And they were playing snakies all over the front straight as well.
Madhouse this has been tonight. What a great race, a pair of races we've had so far. I know we had a little bit of technical drama in the middle, but honestly, the action that we've been privileged to tonight has just been awesome from start to finish.
Really has, and it's not over yet because Lewis Wedding, the gap is coming down slowly.
Line Mitch and Line Mitch and Will Devenish are definitely quicker than Lewis Wedding, but just not quick enough at the moment. They're not taking enough bites out of that advantage to really make this a proper 3-horse battle coming into the last little bit. Late send from Redmond, not this time.
They're going to try and go side by side up the hill. Burko, with a bit of a wider line, might get the power down a little easier.
Park it in the middle of the road. Park it in the middle of the road. Didn't need to that time. Very lucky he didn't get sent down here at
but he's
13.
missed the turning point and missed the apex, and Redmond just powers down the inside.
Yeah, left it
He
open.
just held the door wide open, and Redmond was, thank you very much, I'll take that.
Burko's responding with, I'll take your slipstream though, and just take your position immediately back at the end of the next straight.
Bowl just caught these guys up too after that excursion a couple of laps ago, so he's right on Turmo's hammer. And here we go. Now, this is legal. Defensive moves are legal. You're allowed to move to the to follow somebody to try and break the toe, but the minute you commit to your defensive position to take the corner, you cannot move again. So Redmond stays right down the right-hand side of the track. Here we go. Who's got the big brave balls? Turmo tries the same trick, round the outside again. Didn't come off for the second time running. This time Redmond holds it on the inside, but Bolger pounces and takes the position away from Turmo.
Was the best place again in terms of car positioning, but he had a big slide as he brought the throttle in, and that was enough for Redmond to swoop around the turn 3 apex and make that position. Bolger very opportunistic there, taking the inside line while Turmo was hung out to dry. So now it's Redmond, Burko, Bolger, Turmo for the for 4th to 7th.
So quick note on the last lap, Will Devenish was 1 second faster than Lewis Wedding. The gap is now 3 seconds. Liam Mitch was in between the two of them, but he set a purple first sector this lap.
Turmo's arguing the point here with Steve Bolger. Had a little bit of a run out of 7, didn't have anything to do by the time they got to 9, so he tucks back into P7 here. It's still a very, very good result for Turmo, up 6 places from where he started. Bolger, on the other hand, down 3.
And Burko's run a little wide at turn 11.
Yep.
This might allow Bolger an opportunity to just drag onto the back of the Bentley through this windy section and then get a run onto the back straight into the final corner.
Will Devenish has set a really, really hot first sector, but it was bettered by Lime Mitch. So Lime Mitch with the purple first sector, almost identical second sectors for Wedding and Devenish that time around. Lime Mitch a little bit slower. But we're going to get a readout in a few minutes' time on what these guys have done and where the gaps currently sit.
4/10 that lap for Will Devenish.
Update on that battle a little further back. Turmo's actually made the move on the inside of Bolger around the final corner. Bolger got wide coming onto that back straight and ruined his run there, and Turmo was able to pounce.
Yeah, bad lap from Bolger there too. A 2-minute flat compared to the other guys around him doing, minute 59s basically.
And just behind that battle, there's another 3-car battle. Noah Taro, Brock Harvey, and Brendan Ross all attached at the hip. Oh, and a little bit attached to the hip. Brendan Ross into the wall.
That was a bit
attached
naughty
at the
from
hip
Brock
and
Harvey
shoulder.
there.
Yeah, and Rossi's not happy about it. Let's go back and have a bit more of a look at that one. I think that deserves a replay just to see what happened here. So, on board with Brendan Ross. In the toe, Noah Taro was well clear here. And Rossi had the run. Ooh, there was a little bit of a love tap. And, maybe a little bit of moving in the braking zone there, I think. But possibly might have been in response to the nudge that Harvey got from Brendan Ross.
Little untoward from the pair of them there. Not nice really to either of them were each other, just a bit bit mean all around. But
to be fair, there's a little bit of a difference between giving someone a nudge when you're slipstreaming them, which will give them a bit of a boost, and braking diagonally and
yeah, taking that braking zone away from
yeah.
Couple of
Because there's nothing you can do as the trailing car there. It's like
yeah,
Verstappen and Ricciardo in Baku.
Well, Rossi did the noble thing there. He sent himself off the road instead of nerfing Harvey. Because it would have been very easy just break in a straight line there, run into the rear of the Camaro and just send it into the wall.
yeah, and wipe the both of them out. But no, I think there'll be a trip to the principal's office there for the pair of those boys, just to explain themselves and the little antics on that last lap.
Gap at the front now, less than 2 seconds between Will Devenish and Lewis Wedding. Turmo is gaining on the pair, but not quite enough, as we've got 4 minutes left in the race. And then the battle pack for fourth is continuing to brew. Redmond has half a car length over Burko, who really has the pair of red machines in his mirrors, very, very large. A red cat and a red snake is what he's got in the mirrors of that Bentley.
That's about the only real polite way you can put it, isn't it? A red cat and a red snake, because there's no other cars in the field that have a name that's sort of synonymous with an animal.
Oh, I guess, well, Huracan is a type of bull, like all Lamborghinis are, except for the Countach, which is basically the old Italian way of saying damn, honestly. Apparently the story goes for the Lamborghini Countach that when the head of Lamborghini, or the design chief of Lamborghini, saw the initial design, that was what he said, so that's what the name of the car was.
There you go, fun story.
Full of fun facts.
Back to the front. Lime Mitch is not closing the margin down to Will Devenish, so this is really much going to be a race in two. And Will has really launched himself right onto the back of this Acura NSX in quick time now. The gap is going to be probably just on a second at the line this time around, and Lewis is going to have to hang on for another 3 laps. What's the slipstream going to be like for Will Devenish? Going to get a little one, not very much. Probably about 1.2 still back. I think it's all
he needs. It's all he needs, though.
1.0.
At the end of this straight, he is going to be officially there.
Yeah, he is now. And speaking of officially there, again, Tim Redmond trying to stay out of the clutches of Burko and Bolger and Turmo as they all try and hone in on him to steal that 4th place away. Bolger going to try the long way around the outside of the pair of them.
And he's going to take
He's going to get one. He gets Burko temporarily, and Burko says, no, you're not. I'm going to give you a little bit of a shot, and we'll argue this point down to turn 4.
Redmond gives the slipstream to Bolger, though, so that's going to let Bolger pull in front of Burko. I don't know if I would have done that. Maybe it won't, though. Burko's still there.
Bolger had just a little bit of a lose in the mid-corner at the rear, so he's not quite got the run that he needs down this slower section, flowing section. Now, he's got the track position, but can Burko throw it down the inside? No, Bolger covers very nicely.
Off the apex,
holds
though.
It up on the apex.
Yeah, he was very close to missing the braking marker again there, Bolger, but managed to just stay within about 3 feet of the apex, so he covered off any potential spot for Burko to resend it.
This was like great fun, this battle pack of 4. They've been attached nose to tail for the last, 15 minutes these guys have. And it's been very clean. There's only been 1 or 2 little bit of moments. And it's all been...
Wedding's had a moment. Sorry, guys, there's been a collision. Wedding's had a moment out of 13. And Devenish has gotten into him. That's given Lime Mitch a little bit of an extra kick here because he's going to close that margin down. Wedding,
2.5 seconds.
Now, Wedding half lost this, and Will's going to try and go around the inside at the last couple of corners. I've woken up my wife, but I don't really care. Let's have a bit of a look at what happened to Lewis Wedding. He just got a little bit out of control here through 13. I was cycling up to take a look at him on the other screen. Lost it through there, and just wrong part of the road. And Devenish ran straight into him.
So now Lewis is extremely vulnerable now. He's got the front end very twitchy. He's defending for his life at the moment with Will Devenish right on his tail. And look who's looming in the background. It's Lime Mitch. It's almost a touch as they come through turn 3.
This is going to be elbows out now for the next 2 laps, guys. The clock is at 0, so there's this lap plus 1 more. So again, we get 17 laps. Wedding is going to be making that Acura as wide as he possibly can, driving every defensive line. This is all music to Line Mitch's ears. He could swoop in and pick up the pair of them.
Just navigating the battle further back. Bolger has gotten past Burko, or has he? They're going side by side down the hill yet again, and they were almost on the back of Redmond through turn 1 and 2, but Redmond's done a nice job to just eke out a car length again.
Burko's off.
Burko's on right off.
Yeah, Burko's gone off the road. We're just not looking on the other screen here, guys, while we were keeping this eye on this first place battle. So Burko has gone off, and he's surrendering time to
making a
Bolger.
move.
And Line Mitch is going to go too. Line Mitch is going to get in there. He's got to get in there now. He's got to send up the inside at 10. He's got no choice. He has to make this move stick. Is he going to get the
they're going to go 3 wide.
Surely not. Surely not.
Line Mitch is going to pop out the lead.
Line Mitch goes through. They're going to go 3 wide back up the hill as well. There's touching. They get through somehow. Line Mitch to the lead of the race. Wedding slots back into second, and Devenish relegated down to third. We got... And Devenish sends it again. Devenish goes around.
And that's going to...
Oh, no.
Where's the fourth place battle in this? Here comes
Redmond's
Tim Redmond.
still back there.
Redmond's going to have sight of Will Devenish here, but he's probably not going to be close enough to attack. But that takes Will Devenish out of this battle. So Line Mitch to the lead. Lewis Wedding second, coming to the white flag.
Line Mitch gained that time so quickly as well. He was still 2 seconds off this battle, and then suddenly he's there, and then suddenly he's in first place with a brilliant move into turn 10, and now it's 1 lap that he has to hold off.
57 for Line Mitch, 2 minutes flat for Wedding and Devenish. The previous lap that just happened, 58 for Line Mitch, 2 minutes 1 for Wedding, 2 minutes 6 for Devenish. Line Mitch has got it. He's eked out an advantage already. There's no slipstream for the Acura behind. As long as Line Mitch holds it together, he's going to take this race win. From the rear of the grid, like I predicted.
The last time we saw this gentleman was last year when Mitch Hathaway took a rear of grid to the front of grid win at the beginning of the Super 2 race at Albert Park, at Adelaide. So this has not been done for over a year and a half now, but it's very rare when it does happen, and if he manages to do it, he will join a very, very elite club here in Automobilista Australia.
Navigates turn 9 and 10 very nicely. The Acura is just there, just close enough to give him something to worry about, something to keep an eye on, but it's over a second as they come down the back straight on the inside of the circuit.
And it's all settled down behind as well. The only real battle that's in contention is this one back here, with Termo trying to close down Steve Bolger Steve Burko in the closing stages. That's really all it is. But again, this whole sort of culmination, or this crescendo, came to a force sort of at the beginning of the last lap, and then it all settled down again. So a couple of corners to go. Traffic not a factor.
What a breakout round for Line Mitch. We were saying about how he was always fourth. He's even got his name on Discord as always fourth Mitch, but today he's gone from the podium to the rear, and now he comes out the final corner, and he's going to win race number 2 with a brilliant drive.
Maiden podium in race 1, maiden GT3 race win for Line Mitch in race 2. What a fantastic round for the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune BMW driver. Wedding second. Devenish gets home for third. Great result for the Kiwi, Tim Redmond, up to P4. What a fantastic drive from him as well. That's sort of showing that he's coming to grips with this McLaren. Bolger fifth. Burko's off the road to sixth. I reckon he's going to be pulling up sore out of this one.
Yeah.
Good drive from Termo as well. That's P7 for the Viper. Noah Turra holds off that battle pack of Harvey and Ross, and here they come to the line now. I think they've changed positions here. Rossi now ahead of Brock Harvey, and 9th and 10th across the line. There they are. And just 2 more runners to get home, Brian Walsh and Luke Joyner, who are still on the lead lap, but Joyner was very close to going a lap down. But the 2 remaining Wedding Crashers Motorsport Lamborghinis are going to finish P11 and P12.
I also need to take a moment to prostrate myself in front of Floody and his predicting abilities, because that's as ridiculous as the bloke who got the who put a 20-cent bet on the podium for Monza and got it right the other day. That's up there with that. I would have given you very long odds on Mitch being specifically in the top 10 at the end of lap 1, top 5 at the end of lap 3, and winning the race.
Well,
I got all three.
I've got some comments coming through on the chat here, guys, especially from a couple of guys that know Low Mitch pretty well. And Daniel Cox, one of them, saying, but that's not fourth. And it's like, well, no, it's not fourth. He's actually broken the duck. So there you go.
Oh, a stellar drive. You got to say, a stellar drive. To keep his cool in that middle period while the front two were getting closer. And then the gates opened, but he still had to drive through them, running into turn 1 and 2 when they were, when it was all three of them there. It was just astounding. And that battle up from turn 11 through 12 around the outside, 3 wide into turn 11. Like, that's not possible. That's not possible, but somehow it worked. And Mitch popped out ahead and, yeah, managed to take the win. What an outstanding drive, honestly. To come from the rear of the field, it's just outstanding.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, guys. Outstanding performance. Waiting to get the podium sitters up in here. I don't think Lime Mitch is going to be able to contain himself after that one.
I can't contain myself. That's amazing.
We have had a sensational night of racing, albeit with a couple of technical gremlins in between. And, well, here they come, top 3. What a show these guys put on in the closing stages of that race. There was a couple of little awkward moments there where a few guys went around and, well, where do we start? Floody, take over, please. Pick one of these drivers and ask them whatever you want to ask them, because that was a finish.
Yeah, well, I've got to start at the very top. Lime Mitch, from the rear of the field, up to 10th on lap 1, up to 5th by lap 3. Take us through those opening laps to get through the field.
Yeah, it was pretty intense again, but just seemed, well, I was able to use my straight line speed to get by a few people, and yeah, I made a few scrappy mistakes, but that was all right.
And then that run to the line, you were sitting in third for quite a while, just biding your time, and then it was almost like the heavens opened for you, but you had to still drive through. That battle between yourself, Wedding, and Devenish from the back straight, like, what goes through your mind when you see the two leaders almost take each other out in that situation?
I didn't actually see what happened. I just came onto the straight and I saw that both of them were going quite slowly, and I pulled up to about 1.5 seconds, so I knew I'd be right from there to be right on them. And then I think Lewis ran wide going into that left-hander on the downhill, and it just opened up the doors for me to get through.
And you got through to take your maiden GT3 Sprint Series victory after what? How many close races that we've seen so far this series? You must. I am on top. I'm over the moon for you, man. How much you must be feeling right now?
Yeah, pretty happy. It's it's been a long time coming. I think almost 2 seasons I've been near enough the podium at least, and now I've got a podium and a first place. So yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations, Lime Mitch. That secures a very advantageous result for you in the Silver Cup as well, but I'm sure that's in the back of your mind now after taking a race win. That's unbelievable driving.
Thank you.
Second in the second race this evening was Lewis Wedding. Lewis, you had quite a quiet race for the first half, but kicked off a bit towards the end. Take us through the race from your perspective.
Well, I guess the main part of the race sort of kicked off when Will ran a little bit wide, coming out of the left-hander after that sort of back straight there. I don't know what corner number it is, but he ran wide, turn 11. So I saw an opportunity to go on the inside. Unfortunately, made a little bit of contact, which forced him a little bit wide, but so able to get in the lead, and then he had a spirited battle with Burko and Bolger for a little bit, which allowed me to get away. And I was hoping that battle would continue for a few laps longer, because I knew the pace in the poor old Honda, not the fastest, and I knew that at the end of a stint, at the corner that I did eventually spin at, or have that half spin, I knew that I could take it normally on a worn set of tires, and it would just go on me, which unfortunately it did this time. But I tried my best in the middle part of the race to try and save tyres, but I moved bars around to try and make it so I wouldn't spin the rear wheels up, and I drove straight out of corners, but it just it didn't matter. The temperatures were just too high. It was, I think, 8 degrees or 4 degrees warmer than the first race. So that was, I think, part of the reason why I struggled a bit at the end, but gave it a crack. Fortunate again to make contact with Will a couple laps ago. Unfortunate, I guess, for him as well that I had that spin and he just had nowhere to go as well. And then from there, I was just trying to hold on. I was hoping to sort of be like third in the queue again, because I back myself to be battling with guys in this car. But if I'm out on my own, the car just doesn't quite have the pace. But tried. But yeah, Mitch was just a little bit too quick this time, and I think Will, if it had have been just a straight fight, he probably would have got past me in the last couple of laps. Although Mitch probably by that stage would have caught us anyway.
Well, in the end, still a first and a second for you this evening. I want to ask you about that sort of psychological battle in the mid part of the race there, because you had quite a large advantage. I think it got out to 6 seconds. Do you start to see that number come down? And if you do, does that begin to worry you? Does that get in the back of your mind? Is that something that you focus on?
I wasn't like say fixated or worried. I was, looking back, seeing the number was coming down, and I was just sort of trying to drive to a number and just to try and make sure I had tires or some form of rear tires left at the end of the race. But yeah, I knew fairly early on, once Will started to put a couple tenths on me a lap or two after he got by, I think, Bolger in the end. I knew that by the end of the race he'd probably catch me. So I was just trying to just manage the car as best I could. Unfortunately, couldn't quite do it. I probably should have found a way to rip the rear anti roll bar out and I don't know, maybe rip the rear springs out as well and try and save the rear tires. But yeah, unfortunately couldn't quite do it. But still, I'm happy. I've been able to continue the streak of winning a race in GT3 in every season I've driven in. So I guess that's goal complete because I can't win the championship. So yeah, I'll certainly take a first and second.
Yeah, and with that, you also take round honours. So congratulations, a good night for you tonight, Lewis Wedding.
Thank you.
And third place for the second race tonight was Will Devenish. Will, starting from the front row, led for most of the first lap, then got caught in a quite enthralling battle for the minor placings on the podium before really roping in Lewis Wedding. Just take us through each of those phases of the race from your car.
So yeah, at the start we had Pete there, but unfortunately his internet must have dropped out. I know he had his mobile working on the internet, so that's disappointing, and it's quite odd that both the championship contenders had this round after round, but we'll take it. But yeah, it's had a pretty spirited battle at the start of that race, and just probably was focusing on my own car a bit more than the people around me, and got caught up with, I think, Burko with a half spin. But after that, was able to sort of get in front of everyone and sort of hunt down Lewis. Yeah, I couldn't really fault the car. It was doing everything I wanted it to do, and we caught up to Lewis, so it's pretty chuffed with that. And yeah, we started battling and had Lime sneak up the inside, and must say that's one of the best overtake maneuvers I've ever seen, up the inside on the back straight. But yeah, unfortunately, a couple of laps to go, Lewis had a very wide entry into that second last corner, and I saw it as an opportunity to make the pass and sort of cut my nose off, and I had a half spin, and there wasn't any way of making that back, so we settled for third and can't really complain about that.
Yeah, well, you made mention at the top of what you said there, with your direct championship rival dropping around. A third and a second for the evening is a great result for the championship heading into the final round in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's the first time in any of my online sim racing where I've gone to the final round potentially able to win a championship. So it'll definitely be interesting. And hoping the pressure sort of doesn't get in my head through this last round.
Well, we saw last year for the final, or last season for the final round, you were absolutely unstoppable at Watkins Glen. Going to Road Atlanta for the final round of the season. Do you feel confident going into that final round? Are you comfortable around that sort of track?
I really love the track. That first sector and that last sector is just heaven in a race car. So yeah, I really love the track. But I know a lot of other guys really like the track too. So I think it will bring some really, really cool racing.
We hope so too. And if it's anything like the racing we saw tonight, we're going to be in for a fantastic finale in 2 weeks. Congratulations on your third place tonight in the second race, Will Devenish.
Thank you.
And lads, after all the trouble we had getting that second race underway, boy, did it deliver.
Yeah, I've got some comments coming back in the live stream from some of the guys saying that the aborted starts was worth the wait on that particular occasion, and I honestly agree with them. The broadcast got a little bit longer than expected, but I think we'll take racing like that over anything. And I just said to some of the guys in the chat that what a pair of races, and that given what has happened when we've been broadcasting GT3s for the last 2.5 years, Bagsy, you and me, and also now Floody this year, I think all three of us can feel really privileged when we get to be broadcasters, when we get racing like that. Absolutely fantastic top draw stuff. Little something different heading into the final round. Bagsy, we have some updated point standings. Let's get a bit of a look. This is what the teams were coming in. We're now about to see what it was after the drivers. If I can get the graphic to load, we will have for you what the points are coming into the final round. Here we go, guys. Just 9 points.
Wow. Yeah, we've only got 9 points between Will Devenish and Peter Savage, and it's going to be very, very interesting there. And it's not the only thing that's going to be interesting, but yeah, that 9 points, it's definitely changed from where we were at only at the start of this round, with Peter Savage having a 16-point advantage. So it's the complexion has changed a lot for that championship battle, and it really is absolutely anyone's race, anyone's championship to win between Devenish and Savage. Lime Mitch as well, with his win and strong showing tonight, has jumped up to third in the championship. He's now ahead of Wedding and Bolger, and Brendan Ross is still there or thereabouts for the battle for third. It'll be difficult for him, but we've seen two people get wins who hadn't got wins so far this season. So it'll be very interesting. I'm just seeing Lewis in the chat saying fourth in the championship for Lime Mitch would be ironic. It very much would. But yeah, we've got it all to play for, not just for the lead for the championship victory, but also for third place.
There's a nice little father-son battle that needs to be resolved at the next round too. Have a look at Greg Tara and Noah Tara, 8th and 9th, separated by just 2 points. So I think the pair of them will be trying to make some inroads to race next week and settle that little intra-family dispute. And then Termo with his pretty decent showing with some good top 10 results tonight. It was a 7th and a 7th for Termo, so he's made his way inside the top 10 as well. So it's all to play for in 2 weeks' time from now. And we probably need to preview, I guess, a little bit of what Road Atlanta is going to be like. I'm going to throw this one to Michael, because we were there for the Porsches not long ago, where people like Will Devenish and people like Brenton Foley, who we haven't seen much of in the GT3 series this year. Tim Redmond had a run around there as well. So even Steve Burko, a number of these guys have done some laps in the very, very recent past at this circuit. And if I can find the results from what we had the last time we were there, only a couple of weeks ago, what's the results were here. So it was a second and a first for Will Devenish in that pair of races.
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, I remember him having 2 very good battles with Luke Rosella. Yeah, so that were, again, the standard that we've seen in the GT3 series between Devenish and Savage were mirrored in that race there. So it's a very, very popular track. It's one of my favorite tracks in the world as well. And while I think the recent run around in the Porsches will certainly help some of the drivers. I don't think it will help too much. The Porsches are very different to drive than these GT3 cars. With all the pendulum effect in the rear of the car, it really changes the dynamics of how you take some of those corners. So I think the GT3s will be a bit more compliant, a bit more stable, and a bit easier to drive. So that might be a bit more level across the field, but certainly going to be a fantastic night of racing. 2 weeks time, the finale of the GT series for the year, actually. So it'll certainly be something to watch. And if we have anywhere close to the level of driving we've seen in the GT series throughout the entire year, in the finale, it's just going to be an amazing night of racing.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And that's a really, really good point to finish up this broadcast on. Thanks for tuning in late, guys. We know it's been a bit of a long night, but thank you once again for your support of AMS Oz and of this broadcast. As per usual, please drive safely. We'll see you in 2 weeks for La Grande Finale at Road Atlanta. Bye for now.